across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
It is Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics, and I'm delighted to say it's time to say a very, very good morning to Mr. Mike, a Porky, a Parry. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Yeah, good morning, Mike. What an exciting day it is, because over the next 3 hours, the greatest female giant panda in Britain.
Yeah.
In fact, the only.
What do you mean, the greatest?
The only.
I mean,
female.
it's not like hordes of them, are they?
No. The only female giant panda in Britain
Tian.
Tian, who's in Edinburgh Zoo,
Yeah.
may even give birth to a little baby panda.
Exactly.
I'm very excited.
Are you?
Yeah,
I didn't know you were a panda fan. You know, you're a fan
of course I'm a
Because
panda
you've
fan.
often said, what would be the point of sort of preserving species? Because, for example, you said the white rhino.
Exactly.
Nobody ever sees a white rhino, so you wouldn't care if there weren't any more white rhinos
Couldn't
left
care
in
less.
the world.
Couldn't care
Why
less.
are pandas any different?
Because pandas have got panda eyes, and they draw on the emotional.
They look like bears, don't they?
Yeah, they draw on the emotional, heartstrings of
they?
almost everybody. We love pandas, but I still don't think they should be kept in zoos. If I had my way, I'd knock down every zoo in the country and free all the animals back into their own
Are you
environment.
still a friend of Chester Zoo?
No, I've resigned.
Have you?
I've resigned.
Have you?
I've given my.
Can I see the letter that you sent them?
No, I've given my subscription to Chester Zoo to Chester Cathedral.
Have you?
You probably didn't notice while you were away, but I was in Chester.
I
and
did notice you were in Chester.
I took a picture
you
of
also
the main
told me
door.
about it yesterday.
I took a picture of the main door of
Oh,
Chester Cathedral,
Okay.
and inside there's a plaque, favoured friend of Chester Cathedral, Michael Allen Parry. Okay?
I didn't see that picture.
Oh,
Is
no,
that
I
on your
didn't
Twitter account?
No, I didn't take a picture.
Oh,
I
there's
just
no
looked at
picture.
it.
Oh, I see.
It was too
'Cause,
dark.
I'll tell you what I did see yesterday, and I forgot to mention it to you, was that somebody pointed out there's some school in Chester that tweeted out about the GCSEs.
Yeah.
It was riddled with spelling mistakes.
Really? Well,
So
doesn't
people were
surprise
saying,
me.
what sort of education do you get in these schools in Chester?
Well,
absolutely horrendous.
If you go to the King's School, Chester, which is one of Britain's top 15 schools, then you get a great education.
Is that right?
That's where I went.
Well, you should pass it on to everybody else.
Now, the other thing is, I can't believe it. I thought we'd got over it. I thought that once, what's that huge rock festival that takes place 2 months ago?
Oh, what, Glastonbury?
Glasgow. I thought once that's over, then all these freaks who want to go waddling around, wading around in mud.
Do you mean young people who like listening to live music?
And wallowing around in mud, the blood and the beer, as Johnny Cash once said, rolling around the mud, the blood and the beer, right? And now they're off to Reading to roll around in mud, blood and beer
well,
again.
Reading Festival used to be one of the great old sort of rock and roll festivals. It was full of bikers, it was full of people in leathers, people taking all sorts of interesting substances. But, I mean, I think it's become a bit more middle class now, so it's not quite as interesting as it used to be.
Nevertheless, the whole transport network in this country is now bunged up by these objectionable...
What, people going to Reading Festival?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, these
what do you
objectionable
care? You're not going out west, are you?
Well, what I care is this. What I care is this, that when somebody arrives on a tube train that I'm on at 6:10 in the morning, and it is normally pretty empty, but it's got a crowd of people who are going off to Reading, who have one rucksack on their back.
Was that this morning you're talking
This
about?
is this morning.
Yeah.
And by the way, I hate single rucksackers with a passion. But these people were double rucksackers. They had one rucksack
on the back,
the
one on the front, yeah.
One on the front.
Yep.
They were holding, one handle each of a tent.
Yes.
So that meant that they took up about, I'm not joking, they must have taken up about 12 square yards of a
but surely
carriage.
they're travelling at such a time as there's no rush hour, so
well,
you shouldn't worry about that.
It looks like a rush hour when them people are there, I'm telling you,
Them people?
Yeah, and they've got, like, wellies swinging off the back of their rucksack.
The Queen's English.
Hang on, wellies hanging off the back of their rucksack, which are
they sound very well
banging
organised.
into my designer clothes and all this kind of stuff.
Designed by who?
Designed by
Blind Pew.
by the great designers, and I
excuse me. The last time you talked about this, I seem to remember it was just on the eve of Glastonbury.
That's right.
And you were very helpful to two young ladies that you decided were looking as if they were struggling a bit, getting through London Bridge Station.
That's absolutely right.
Did you not help them out? So what's different about this lot then?
Well, these look grubbier than the two young ladies I saw last time.
Less female, presumably.
No, they just look like a bunch of people who didn't really have a mission in life except to get to Reading and wallow around in the mud.
If you're up at 6:10 in the morning to get a train to Reading, I'd say pretty well organised. And you're not the kind of person that used to go to these festivals who basically was just trying to hitchhike there the night before it all started. Does it kick off tonight then, Reading?
I don't know. How would I know?
Who's headlining?
I've got the slightest interest.
Well, you're doing a radio show and you're slagging off Reading Rock Festival. You should know who's playing.
Who's headlining it? Who's headlining? I don't know who's headlining
Well, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to find out.
I'm really interested in that. Now then, what about this?
What about what?
My name is Bond. James Bond.
What are you doing that for?
Well, because it's Bond's. It's Bond the first.
Yeah.
Birthday.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
well, why are you doing Johnny Cash again?
No. My name is Bond.
I thought you were going to do that later in the show.
79 years of
age. You're obsessed with James Bond, aren't you? I thought you were going to do that later on.
No, I thought
to the tune of James Bond.
Yeah, no, we will.
I don't know how you've blown the gaff.
No, I haven't blown the gaff.
You've gone too early.
No, I haven't.
You can't be trusted.
No, don't be ridiculous.
Why don't I tell you what's going on today? Do you remember that bloke you had on yesterday, Malcolm Grimstone? That guy you met in Wetherspoons who claimed to be some kind of electrical expert.
No, I didn't.
Who couldn't work his telephone.
Yeah,
he's coming back on.
I know, and he's an energy expert, isn't he?
Well, so you keep telling me.
I hope we can find some energy to...
I hope you can find somebody who's got a workable phone.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. But it's
Am I bothering you, by the way? You seem to be leafing through some documentation.
No. What I'm doing is I'm finding out the details of... my name is Bond, James Bond's birthday, because I think he's 79.
Well, why are you telling me now?
Well, because...
You're supposed to be doing it later.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Why don't we talk about listography instead? Because we've got to get people to suggest a listography. Why don't you explain to people what listography is?
I think that's a very good idea. Listography is... What you do is, folks, if you could please... Oh, and by the way, I want you all to give us a call, because what I meant to say to you all yesterday was that I wanted you to call us, i.e. the two mics, and tell us both, but particularly MG, Michael Graham, just how good it was last week when he wasn't here, right? Now, I'm going to give you the number.
Well, I've already got a tweet here from Helen who says, I must say you are better together rather than separated. Welcome back.
Yeah, OK. Well,
so that goes your poll.
That's one perspective. Now then, the number, please, to call us on is 0344 499 1000, okay?
All right.
Or email via the website at talkradio.co.uk. Now then, what listography is it's three of something that we can talk to you about.
Although we normally only get around to two.
We're normally around to two.
Blather on for such a long time.
As a very basic example, we've had people ask, what were your three favourite films? What were the three best cars you've ever driven?
Yeah.
What were
Somebody just suggested that, actually.
The three best meals.
Top three meals. Yeah, that's already come in.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So there's all these sorts of things. So if you
Richard says, what about top three Belgian beers? Because we were doing the Porky quiz on Belgium.
Well, you know, that trouble is that might reveal how much I know about Belgium extensively. Spent most of yesterday afternoon researching my knowledge of Belgium.
Oh, really?
I've been to Belgium. I counted up last night.
Yeah.
Sadly, for the Heysel stadium disaster.
You have to tell us why you went there.
No. Secondly, I went to Maastricht, which is in Belgium.
Yeah, super.
Well, it's pronounced Maastricht because it's two A's in the middle. It's Maastricht, there's two A's in the middle.
Maastricht.
I went there to a football convention. Yeah, it was a UEFA football convention, not for the fact that we signed the European deal there, which is what it's famous for.
Yeah.
It's a very small town.
Yeah.
Got there on one of these little, two propeller planes from Stansted or something.
Really?
Flew straight there, yeah.
Right.
And
who were you working for to do that? The FA, maybe?
What?
Were you working for the FA then?
No, I was working for TalkSport.
Were you?
Yeah, it was right near the beginning, about 99 or 2000, year 2000, something like that. And the third time I went to I know. I went to Eindhoven because the borough with Steve McLaren as the boss.
Middlesbrough.
Ah, yes, Steve McLaren as the boss. You go to Eindhoven.
What would you go to that for?
They played the final of the UEFA Cup, and she got there. But they got hammered 4-0.
So you went to Belgium 3 times, all for footballing reasons?
Yes. And guess who was captain of Middlesbrough when she got beaten 4-0?
I don't know, Brian Robson.
No, Gareth Southgate.
Oh, was he?
England
top
boss.
man.
Yes.
There is an England game coming up soon, isn't there?
In Malta and against Czechoslovakia, I think.
Yeah. When is that then?
Well, the Malta one's on September 1, away in Malta.
Yeah.
And I think the other one is on the 4th.
Oh, okay. You're not going to go to Malta, are you?
I'm not going to Malta on this occasion.
Okay.
Although I see a friend of ours appears to have chartered a plane to get involved in the old big fight.
The big fight of the weekend. Yeah, we're going to talk about all of that, in fact, coming up tonight. Yeah. Because we've got another show to do tonight on Talk Sport.
We certainly have.
Which will be a little bit more sporty-oriented than this one.
We don't talk about Talk Sport on this station, okay?
Why not?
Because we don't.
It's owned by the same company.
It's Talk Radio.
Yeah, I know, but Talk Sport's owned by the same company.
Stick with Talk Radio.
Yeah, I'm with Talk Radio and Talk Sport. We also mentioned the 2mics.co.uk.
Yes.
Which is another company we work for.
That's right.
And if you go on the website there, you'll find all sorts of goodies
yes, you will.
find yourself getting, including, by the way, an announcement coming very soon, possibly over the weekend.
Yes, indeed.
About a big show we're going to be doing.
That's right.
Not the one in New York.
Yeah, the one in New York, by the way, folks. Get yourself into that. Do you realise that you can sit in the luxury of your lounge, you can put on your smart TV, you can... you'll have
put on your favourite pair of slacks.
A favourite pair of slacks and all kind of stuff. Get a glass of Pinot Grigio in your hand, which you're going to be talking about later in this show.
Yes.
And then, boof, like magic, you'll see the two mics live on stage in New York performing of the moment in New York. How about that?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say, you might be paying up to 20 quid for a boxing match or something like that. But for us, Only £4.99.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to sell it quite as hard as that.
Why not?
Because it's probably against
People
the
want
rules.
to see it.
Well, they do want to see it, yeah. But also, we know what we're going to be doing as well. We're going to do a couple of radio shows from New York as well.
We certainly are.
Which is going to be good. But don't tell us who we're doing them for yet.
No,
because we're still in discussions about
We're still in discussions, but we will be doing them at the regular times that we do our weekend shows. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, well, now you've given away too much information. You can't help it, can you?
What?
You're incapable of not giving away information. If you were a spy, you'd be executed within about the first 2 days of your working scenario.
Funny enough, my job is, as a broadcaster, to be a communicator.
Yeah, but you're not supposed to give everything away all the time.
So many people in our business find it impossible to communicate. I don't.
No,
okay?
you don't. But the trouble is you give away too much information when it's not required.
Not at all.
Now, coming up as well, of course, as well as the Porky quiz, as well as the listography that we're going to do later on in the show, we are going to be telling people why you're going to start hating your job at the age of 35.
Some people do. I've never hated my job.
No,
Always
people have
loved
just
my
hated your job because you were in it. And then we're going to be talking to the Winebird, our good friend, of course, who will advise us on all matters to do with drinking. Because over the course of the bank holiday weekend, we'll be doing quite a lot of work, but no doubt also quite a bit of imbibing as well.
Oh, will you?
Yeah, I would. No, not me. We.
No, you speak for yourself.
Oh, so you're not going to do any drinking over the weekend?
Well, I haven't made up my mind what I'm doing over the weekend, okay?
Really?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, because on Sunday I'm going to watch Chelsea versus Everton.
Oh, right. So
at the bridge.
So you're going to get back to football again?
Well, I mean,
your life revolves around football, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't. No, it's just my pastime to take the pressure off my.
So you're going to go to Stamford Bridge?
Yes.
Where you're going to be given hospitality, presumably.
Yes, that's right.
So you're not going to drink?
Yes, I will be. Yeah,
you will
definitely,
be
on Sunday. Yeah.
I thought you said you weren't undecided.
And by the way, bit of a swizzle, really, because
swizzle?
It's a 1:30 game.
Yeah.
So everybody assumes, it'll be on telly. So anyway, I'd already bought my tickets to go because I want to.
Yeah.
Bought, by the way, when you say enjoying hospitality.
Yeah.
Paid for.
How much do you pay for them?
I don't really want to go into that.
Why not? Because it's very expensive.
It was over £700.
£700?
Yeah.
What a waste of money that is.
No, it's not.
Well, to watch Everton get slaughtered.
No, not at all. If you'd have been at Manchester City the other night.
No, I was in Greece at the time.
Oh, yeah, on the Ouzo Trail.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, enough of that. What we must tell our millions of listeners is what's coming up on the show.
Well, we've just done that.
Well, you've done a bit of it, but you haven't really done it.
You've not seen the time.
Right.
You're all with it today, are you? Have you had any sleep?
I think one of the best stories is the end of the bachelor pad.
Has it? Okay.
I've had a bachelor pad all my life.
Yeah. Well, that's because you've been a bachelor all your life.
And you've and you've reverted to bachelor padness.
Well, I have a bachelor pad, but I also
only
have
for half the
a
week,
family home. That's right.
Talk about a double life.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Talk about a rat-like.
What's wrong with having a double life?
A rat-like life without the cunning.
There's nothing wrong with a double life. You live twice as well, twice as long.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
We are the Two Mics. You can tweet us at the Two Mics, at Talk Radio, of course, as well. We've got some great tweets that have come in already with some listography suggestions as well. Also, a couple of corrections. Paul says this: tell El Planko Eindhoven is in Holland and Czechoslovakia does not exist anymore.
No, that's right. That's absolutely right.
And also, Zodiac says Maastricht is also not in Belgium, it's in Holland. So the 3 times you've been to Belgium,
right,
2 of them you were in Holland.
Hang on, where is it? Eindhoven. Yeah, Eindhoven is in Holland because PSV Eindhoven is in the Dutch league.
The Dutch league.
What else did I say?
Maastricht is also in Holland.
It's right on the border, actually.
Well, it's still in Holland.
It's right on the border.
Well, you might as well say that Berwick upon Tweed.
Yeah, but I'm talking about a united Europe here,
is right on the border. United Europe.
And Brussels. So
you've been once to Holland?
Yes, it looks like it. Yeah,
Belgium.
Yeah, Belgium. No, I've been plenty of times to Holland. Yeah, actually, funny enough, I remember now, I was counting up the places I've been to in Holland, not Belgium.
Really?
And I've been to 4 places.
Well, that's not a great start since the quiz is on Belgium. No, excuse me, we've got to talk to Mira Hillel.
Of course we have.
Important
guest. We have,
We'll get back to your confusion over Belgium and Holland later.
Yeah.
Mira, a very good morning to you and thank you for joining us.
Good morning.
Terribly sorry to keep you waiting there. We had a bit of confusion between Holland and Belgium, which I'm sure you don't have at the great London Evening Standard.
We've all been there.
Exactly. We have. Now, my friend Porky here has been telling me that it's the end of the bachelor pad because nobody can now afford to buy one. I assume that's a kind of regional problem because it depends where you live, doesn't it?
Well, I think it's a kind of trying to find a new approach to the problem of people not being able to afford to buy, which is really, really not new. Well, so, it's a way of spinning the same old story with the new flashy new clothes.
Well, that may be the case, Mira, but what I'm saying is it's now emerging that what it's taken away is a a rite of passage for a young man and a young woman. Because the one thing you want to do when you get out of university, you might go back home for a year, find your feet, get yourself a job and all that. And then that moment when you get the keys to your own first one-bedroom flat, you know, you're a young lady about town or a young bloke making his way as a chartered surveyor or something like that. That's the moment we all relish, isn't it? The total freedom of having our own front door key.
Yeah, but nowadays it's normally a front door key to a rented place.
Right, okay.
But there was a time.
You can still get as naughty as you like, but you don't own it.
Right.
But Mira, there was a time, was there not? And Mike was talking about this when he was a young man. It may have been some years ago, but you would get a decent job. You might be getting, somewhere around the 12,000, 15,000 a year mark, and a property was only literally about 3 times your salary.
Yeah.
So you could afford to do it. But of course now, unless you're in a part perhaps of Britain which is a little bit cheaper on a property scale, there's no way you can ever do that now.
No, that's what's not new, because what you were describing, we're talking decades now.
Yeah.
Well, you say decades, indeed. You're absolutely right. The thing is, Mira, it's never going to come back, is it? Because if you look at the basic economic equation of supply and demand, that is, you know, how do you figure out how anybody buys a house for £350,000 this year anywhere? And the answer is they cost that because there aren't enough of them. And so when we're going to start building some more, so we can all, you know, return to reasonably priced accommodation? Never
is the answer, because the only people who build houses are house builders.
Yeah.
Sounds a bit daft, but, you know. And they are not going to increase the supply to reduce the prices, because the only thing they're interested in is their profit margins.
Yeah. Does it mean, Mira, that we're going to see a sort of change in society in the sense that people will be getting married perhaps later because they haven't got anywhere to live, or, in fact, getting married and having to stay living with one pair of parents?
Well, again, that's not new either. This has all been going on for decades now. So the answer is yes.
So you know loads of people who are married that live with their parents?
Well, they're married and they're renting.
Yeah, they do that. But, Mira, the other thing is, you say that's been going on for decades, all that kind of stuff. There are other people who can build houses apart from house builders, and that's local authorities. And, in fact, you know, the Mayor of London, Mr Khan, has just acquired a block of land, hasn't he, and said this has all got to be affordable housing. Why haven't we been doing that over the last 10 years?
Because with due respect to Mr Khan, who's a very nice man, what he's going to build or has built, you see, that he won't build anything. You'll not see him carrying bricks around. He will, as he has already, he's got a housing association to build.
Yeah.
They are building shared ownership. Shared ownership is like part rent, part buy, and the part buy part is a bit like Never Never Land. I've been warning people about shared ownership for a very, very long time, because your chances, having got into it, of actually increasing your ownership until you own it outright.
Increasing the equity year by year.
Yes. Unless you're going to have an absolutely soar-away career or win the lottery.
Yes.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, no, it's not going to happen. And can I say this as well, Mira? I'm of an age now where I was able to buy my first house, albeit in Sale in Greater Manchester, where I worked on the Daily Express. I bought my first house for less than twice my salary. I was earning $12,000 and bought my first little 2-bedroom house for $20,000.
Well, how lucky was that?
Well, that's exactly what I'm saying. I mean, I came from the baby boomer generation that just fell into a period when property was plentiful compared to the population.
And what was the year?
That was 1981.
Right.
And do you know what? I've moved since then to various houses, and I've been lucky enough to be able to afford it every time. And now, sort of 25 years on, my property has escalated beyond anything I could have dreamed of in those days to make me comfortable at the age I am now.
Yeah, well, I bought my first house in 1975.
Right.
And I'm still living in it.
Right.
Wow.
And it's now worth about 300 times more than I paid for it.
Yes, that's right. That's precisely.
So you don't actually have to keep moving to make money in property. You just have to own a property, preferably in a good location.
Yes.
And you just sit in it. And over the years that this house has belonged to me, it has earned every single month more than I have.
Yeah, I know. Funny you should say that.
That's extraordinary, really,
because
isn't it? But do you think that is going to continue? For example, if you could get the money together to buy, say, a flat in London right now, over the next 35 years, that wouldn't happen, would it?
I don't think so, no.
No.
But then why should it? I mean... The reason why people can't afford to buy now is because I was lucky back in 75. If I had to buy the house I am living in now, forget it.
Yes. Oh, yeah, completely forget it.
Well, that's why there are some people in the political world who would like to tax you up the wazoo to make sure that you can provide more money for more people who weren't as lucky as you.
That's not the point. The point is that the developers... And you're quite right. If Mr. Khan had not done this deal with developers, but with contractors, build these houses, I will sort out who lives in them and how much they pay.
Yes.
Because the profit margin in house building is obscene, 20-25%.
Oh, I think you make
margin.
No, I think the profit margin on a house is 50%, Mira. I think what they do is they build over a 6-month period. By the time they've bought the plot of the land and put the land on it, I think it's nearer 50%.
Well, that's speculative.
Yeah.
But for example, a developer doing a deal with a local authority.
Yes.
On local authority land. Take Southwark. Take the Haygate Estate in Southwark or the Aylesbury.
Yeah.
They clear out the tenants and the houses. They build new, and they build in 20-25% profits into their tender to the local council.
Right.
And the local council, instead of looking at it and saying, "Hang on a minute, 5% is quite enough, mister."
Yeah.
They let it happen.
Yeah, well, that's why house builders are very wealthy people, aren't they?
It's a shocking state of affairs. Listen, Mira, thank you very much indeed. We're out of time, I'm afraid. Mira Bar-Hillel there from the Evening Standard, property correspondent, who's lived in one house for 35 years. That's pretty unusual, actually. Not a lot of people do that.
Well,
because most people have a reason for moving, either work-related or family-related or something.
I'll talk to you about it in a minute, but a lot of the people that I went to work with in the Express in London when I moved down there, their parents had bought a house for £20,000 in St John's Wood in the 50s, just post-war, and those houses are now worth $2.5 million.
Yeah. My father could have bought the flat we lived in Hampstead for 17 grand.
1.7.
1.7.
Now worth?
Probably about $1 million.
Yeah, exactly.
Shocking.
Exactly.
He didn't buy either.
No, he didn't.
What a plank.
Well, you know.
The 21st Century Dream Team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Radio. Billy says this. It's my 29th birthday tomorrow. Any chance of some Porky words of wisdom and some free scratchings? It's all the best from Billy in Bridge North.
Billy in Bridge North, 29th birthday, is it?
Yeah, it is.
It's only one before 30, Billy, so make the most of it, mate, because next time you celebrate a birthday, you're going to be into your third decade.
Be fourth decade, no?
What?
Wouldn't it be the fourth decade?
Well, the first decade's up till 10.
Yeah.
Second decade up to 20. Fourth. Start of the fourth decade, mate. Yeah. Don't worry about that, okay?
Yeah, he's not worried about it.
No.
Now, how about this from Jane? A couple of suggestions for listography. 3 most disastrous dates.
Yes.
Or the 3 most eventful funerals.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Oh, I'm not doing funerals.
No?
Sorry, funerals send a shiver up my back.
Give you the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah,
do you still drive home past that crematorium?
Never.
Really?
It's not a crematorium, it's a funeral director's, but he has the light on all night.
Right.
And
that's where they do the embalming, isn't it?
Well, at 2:30 in the morning, which is the time most people die. Did you know in hospitals they go around and cart the bodies out of the beds at about 2:30 in the morning? Because if you're on the brink, you usually go about 2:30 a.m.
Yes, right.
And then these quotes private ambulances turn up.
Yeah.
A private ambulance is in fact a meat wagon sent from the local undertakers.
An unfortunate phrase.
Well, I'm afraid it is, but I mean, they stick the bodies in the back and they take them, and then they're laid out on the slab, and then the embalming process starts. You know. So it's not something that
Imagine having to work in a place like that.
Well, how
people
could you?
Must do.
How could you?
Yeah, well, people do.
And do you know what? You read these job these sort of job
recruitment consultants.
Yeah, and these supplements that they put in the papers sometimes. Job opportunity.
Yeah.
And you got some young girl aged about 22 or something, very attractive and all that, saying, "Oh, this is my calling. Oh, I look after the dead and all that kind of stuff." And they dress up like. In all sorts of black clothes and that kind of
stuff.
Black
clothes?
Yeah, and walk in front of the hearse.
Where did you read all this rubbish?
No, I've seen it happen. The last funeral I went to was my mate Gordon Ducker.
The East End funeral, they still do the old horse-drawn carriage and all that.
I can't stand all that. It's
Why
so
not?
spooky. Well, it's like Dracula stuff, isn't it? It's horrible. But
well, it's respectful to the dead. That's the point.
Yeah, well, you say that. But anyway, the last funeral I went to, because I have copped out of a couple of funerals in the last couple of years. I just couldn't face them. And last one I went to was my mate Gordon Ducker, who was a great guy and worked with me at the Express. And sadly, he succumbed to cancer of the stomach.
Yes, I remember him, yeah.
And it was awful because
Charlie Uncle used to be known as, didn't he?
Yeah, well, he was a reserve in the RAF. Yeah. So all his RAF mates turned up in their, in their like, RAF
regalia,
uniforms.
Yeah,
brilliant.
He was in. Was it the Fleet Air Arm or something like that?
No. He was an RAF reserve.
Okay.
And what he did was I had to give him leave 2 occasions for both Gulf Wars to go out and control the PR exercise.
Yeah. That was how he got the name. I think
that's how we used to call him Winco, as in Wing Commander.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. In fact, he was the bloke who fixed up the event I went to at the Royal Naval College in Greenwich.
It's all beginning to make sense
now.
now.
Yeah, it's all making sense.
So because you gave him time off, he got you a lucrative sort of payback scenario.
That sort of thing, really. Yeah,
typical corrupt practices.
But it was a long time ago.
Like Porky Parry.
But anyway, so what happens is poor old Gordon succumbs, and his funeral was at the crematorium in Cambridge.
Oh, right.
Because his son had moved there. And his son's a very nice lad as well, and very successful in the financial world.
Yeah.
So I got out there and I had a couple of drinks before the funeral because I find that quite, nerve-wracking.
Steady your hand.
Steady the hand and all that.
And was
kind
it
of
a proper service and everything?
Well, this is the point, you see. What happened was I got to the crematorium and a few of his friends there from the Express. But as I was my taxi was coming up to the crematorium, it started overtaking all these hearses, which were stationary.
Right.
And I said, what are they all doing?
Yeah.
He said, it's the queue. I said, what? He said, believe me, it's a production line these days, funerals.
For sure.
So, anyway, I said, how long are they going to wait? He said, about an hour. I said, God, blimey, I couldn't believe it. So I got in there, and Gordon came up. And this very attractive young lady with a top hat on and, immaculate sort of black
dressed
clothes.
in black because they're sort of commandeering it all, right?
Was walking in front of the hearse of the funeral before Gordon's,
Right.
And I thought, this is ceremony and all this kind of stuff. Anyway.
It's not cheap either as a funeral these days.
Not cheap
it
at all.
costs you a few £1,000.
It certainly would. And anyway, we got into the chapel and I gave a rousing speech on behalf of Gordon.
Did you?
Yeah, because I said that, he was always the most immaculately dressed guy. His shoes were always shiny black. His trousers were always pressed immaculately, his starched white shirt and all that. And, of course, we're very sorry to see him go.
Yes.
But what happened was, we, as a final sort of farewell, but you don't tell him it's a final farewell, do you? We invited him to...
What do you mean a final farewell?
Well, this is what I mean. We said, look, why don't we take you out in London? You can't say because you're going to be dead in 3 weeks, can you?
No, you can't.
So you say, look, I tell you what, we'll take you out into London, okay? And, nice to see you and all that kind of stuff. And Terry Manners and I organised this. And Terry, of course, is a very jovial chap as well, likes a social occasion.
He's a bit of a kind of there are some people in the world, though, who are sort of grief martyrs for others. And you know how you meet he was one of these guys who was always full of sort of, tales of woe about somebody else.
Yeah, that's right.
Almost as though he was happy it wasn't him.
Well, funnily enough, there was a bit of grief tinged to Terry, because remember, we had a very good... designer guy who did much the same job he father did, called Tim at the Express. Yeah. And he was a lovely guy and very willing. He used to do all sorts
tremendous artist, actually.
Yeah, he used to do cartoons for people for their birthdays and all that kind of stuff. And Terry goes downstairs, at some lunchtime, and he walks outside in a new building, and Tim is propped up against the wall, having a heart attack.
Oh, God.
And so Terry sort of, he called an ambulance, nothing happened, and then he saw there was a car on the forecourt at the Express belonging to an executive.
Right.
So he managed to get the driver, you know what I mean? It was an editor's car or something like that. And they bungled Tim into the back of the car, raced off to the nearest hospital, which probably would have been St. Thomas's, something like that. And Tim died in his arms before they got there. It's a sad thing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
that's
terrible,
awful, isn't it?
Terrible.
Did you see that picture today, talking of funerals, of this character who parked Land Rover Discovery over 4 graves?
Oh, shocking.
Isn't that awful?
Well, isn't that so disrespectful?
And then apparently later was told to move the car and did move it and apologised.
Yes.
How could you not know that you were parking it on top of 4 graves?
Plots, I know. It's disgusting, wasn't it? Yeah. Where did this happen? Which part of the world is
I'm not sure. Somewhere in Midlands, I think.
It was Charnwood Borough Council, wherever Charnwood is. I don't know where Charnwood is.
Charnwood?
Do you? Charnwood?
I don't.
No, I don't either. But no, not good. Not good. Loughborough, Leicestershire.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyway, just to finish the story about Gordon, so we took him to Joe Allen, and there were about half a dozen of us.
They've moved now, haven't they? They have to go to the new one.
I'm not sure if they have moved yet, but they're going to knock that block down.
No, they were moving in July.
They're moving, but okay, great. So what happens is...
Seen the time, by the way.
Yeah, don't worry about the time. What happens is Gordon's taking his morphine tablets, but it's very obvious after about half an hour he's feeling a bit of discomfort.
Right.
And then after
How many of you were at the table?
About 6.
6?
Yeah, so...
Sure, this is a good idea.
Well, it wasn't a good idea, because... So, he said, are you all right there, Gordon? All right, I'm determined to see it out. Anyway, after about an hour, Gordon's gone white.
Yeah.
I mean, he's killed out. I'm
sure he won't mind. Presumably lobbing back the Pinot Grigio.
This is the very point. I'm sure he won't mind you telling me the story. So anyway, Gordon's at the point now where it's clearly obvious he can't stick around.
Yeah.
So I say... So I whispered in Terry's ear, Terry, look, you can see Gordon is actually slipping down a bit. I said, we better get him out of here.
Yeah.
And Terry was so involved in his mind. He said, oh, all right, mate, yeah, I'll leave that to you. So he turned back to the table. So I sort of
shocking story.
I know, pick Gordon up, and you have to go up those stairs at Jarland to get out.
Yeah.
Well, I had to virtually carry him on my shoulder.
Right.
Stand on Exeter Street.
Yeah. Look for a cab.
Wave a cab down.
Right.
But of course, the cab thought Gordon was drunk. Thought he was a drunk, and so I had to put him down so I could wave a cab down without a man on my shoulder. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had the cab down.
This is awful.
And the guy said, "Yeah, I know it is.
Just horrendous."
I know. And the guy said, "I said, the driver." I said, "Look, I'm really sorry, mate." I said, "But I promise you, my mate is not drunk at all." I said, "He's ill, and we brought him out for the." Really? And I whispered, I said, sort of the Last Supper, you know what I mean? He said, right, where does he live? I said, he lives in Dagenham.
Right.
It's quite a long way out.
It is a long way out.
And I said, but look, I'll give you £100, or whatever it was in those days.
Well, so you could get back to the wine.
Well, yeah, because I thought Terry Manners will drink all the wine if I don't get back in quick,
Right.
So
you just dumped him in a taxi?
No, I didn't. I settled him into the back seat.
Yeah.
I said, oh, you're all right, Gordon, but this time, he was in terrible pain,
of
with
course.
morphine and all that kind of stuff. It was wearing off. And I just said to the driver, thanks a lot, mate. And sadly, that was the last time I ever saw him.
Really?
He died about 3 days later.
A shocking way to treat somebody.
I know. It's a
That's
terrible
appalling.
story. Terrible story.
I mean, if anybody ever had any view about you being heartless, 1/3 heartless or whatever,
well,
unbelievable.
Well,
That is shocking.
Hang on, at least
I'm actually shocked by that story.
At least I carried him up the stairs.
What a cruel man you are.
And took him out. Nobody else was volunteering to. They saw all the wine, waiter
awful.
approaching.
I imagine people will be horrified at that story. Absolutely dreadful.
I think everybody will experience the same sort of problem.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know what I mean? And you got to remember, Gordon, just wanted me to get back to the table.
Yeah.
Don't stay with me, Mike. I said, okay then. But,
Yeah, well, these things happen. Yeah. But they don't happen to many other people.
Sadly.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Talk Radio, we are the Two Mics. Don't forget, it is the Porky quiz coming up a little bit later on. It's on Belgium, even though Porky thinks it might be on Holland. He's a bit confused about that. But a couple of tweets have come in after that terrible story you just told. Simon says, shocking Mike Parry story. MG, why does Porky always laugh at tales of illness or death?
No.
Well, I mean, the thing is, and I will be in your corner on this one, actually, just to defend you slightly.
Yes.
The thing about the business that we used to be in, which was Fleet Street,
that's right,
was that, there were lots of horrendous things that happened all the time.
There were.
And actually, one of the ways that you could stop yourself from going completely mad or becoming a complete sort of emotional husk was to have a bit of a sense of humour about some things that other people would find quite tragic. And there is a reason for that. And actually, it's almost it's a self-defence mechanism in a way.
It is self-defence, isn't it?
However, Wrong Star says, another shocker from Porky. Does he realise he's on the radio?
Well, yes, but I mean, look, you've got to be honest about these things. What else do you think I would say? And of course, Gordon's...
And actually, I knew Gordon Ducker rather well.
Yes.
And he would be laughing listening to that story.
Oh, he would.
To be honest.
Without a shadow of a doubt, he would. I remember he came back from some RAF dinner one night and he was working as night news editor or something like that. We better send him home. Unfortunately, he'd left his Spitfire back at the the do he'd been to, but he hadn't left the octane behind. But he's a great guy, and he would have laughed at that.
Now we've got lots more to do. We've got a listography to choose, and we've got some very good suggestions. But do keep sending them in. Hashtag it listography. Tweet it at the two mics, of course, or at talkRADIO.
Yes.
Now we're going to go for something now, which I regard as quite a risky venture. We're going to try and talk once more to Malcolm Grimston, who was the guy we spoke to yesterday, who had terrible trouble with 2 different phones that he had.
Yes.
We're going to see whether Malcolm today
has
got a better line. Malcolm, a very good morning to you. Welcome back.
Yep. Phone number 3 should be much better.
That sounds terrific.
Excellent.
Horrendously bad yesterday. Sorry about that. Now, listen, today we're happy to talk to you once again, obviously, because yesterday we were going to talk about the difference between, how much power you could have running through your house if you're trying to charge up an electric car.
Right.
Today, Porky's got a new question
for you.
Well,
Malcolm, it gets madder and madder the way that people say they're going to plug the energy gap when we've got 40 million electric cars on the road that we haven't got any electricity for. And the latest one I've seen is that Britain's biggest energy providers are now seeking approval to hollow out a number of mountains in Britain. I mean, literally go to the top of mountains, cut the top of the mountain off, hollow them out so that like a huge bowl, a huge cup, and then fill them full of water, which then will be drained out of the mountain through the other side of the mountain to produce hydroelectric power. I mean, this is all cloud cuckoo land, isn't it?
Well, it's actually an established technology. If you go up to Snowdonia in North Wales, you'll come to a place called Dinorwic, where in the 70s, I think it was, certainly a long time ago, they did exactly this. They hollowed out a slate mountain. As I was saying yesterday, it's unfortunate you couldn't hear me, but I was explaining, I thought, very well.
Yes, I'm sure you were.
Electricity isn't a stuff, it's a process. If you've got a stuff like a barrel of oil or uranium or gas or whatever, you can store it in a place and you can take it out of that place when you want it. Electricity is very small bits of matter moving about, and obviously you can't store a process. So you have to, when electricity is being generated that we don't need, you've got to find a way of turning it into something that stores the energy and then use that something to create electricity again. And there's really 2 main candidates that are flying around. One of them is pumped storage, that what you're describing. This has been done for decades, and it's pretty effective because once you pump the water uphill, you can then use it exactly when you want it. So it's very flexible once you've pumped it uphill. The problems are it's horrendous locally, environmentally, and you do waste about 15 or 20% of the energy in the whole process of pumping it uphill and getting it down again.
And doesn't it cost hundreds of millions of pounds to build these reservoirs, each one of them? So where is the benefit if you're... how much energy would you expend in building this massive hole in the top of a mountain?
Yeah, I mean, those are good questions, and there is an energy payback period of I think it's up around the 5-year period. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But this is for a project that would then run for 70, 80 years. There are pumped storage schemes around the world that have been running for that. For that long. The benefit comes that at the moment, because we can't store electricity, we've got to make it as we require it.
Yeah.
That means on a cold winter's night, we're using 3 times as much energy as on a warm middle of the night in the summer.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't have some way of storing electricity, it means we've got to build enough power stations to fulfill that maximum demand. And those power stations, quite a lot of them are just going to be sitting around without anything to do, but still needing to be maintained for the rest of the year. So the economic benefit of it's not black and white by any means, but where it is economically beneficial, the point is that by producing the pumped storage, you're able to use your existing power stations much more efficiently. You can use them when there isn't a direct demand for electricity, and that cuts down the number of power stations you need to build, which is an economic benefit.
Okay, now they've cited one called Ben Cruachan in the report I've seen, which apparently is in the Scottish Highlands, but I'm rather more interested in the one that I will have known as a child, brought up in Chester, and that's the Festiniog hydropower station in Snowdonia.
Blaenau Festiniog.
One
of my favourite places.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, I think that the Bala Lake, that's in Snowdonia, provides all the water for Chester, Liverpool and sort of Merseyside, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's no real reason why the water should be getting polluted in the course of this. It's just flowing through very large turbines, and you can do that quite cleanly. There's a lot of lakes around the world which are very healthy, used for boating, fishing, and all sorts of things, and for water supplies, which also are used as hydropower dams. The problem, of course, is that you need for this to work, you've got to have a big difference in height between the top of the mountain and where the water is flowing to, so the water can get a speed up and you get reasonable amounts of energy. Inevitably, that means we put it in some of our most beautiful countryside. So Dinorwig Festiniog was sort of the little brother of the Dinorwig scheme, which is the big one. They're both in quite close to each other in Snowdonia. The north of Scotland has used hydropower for many years. It's the main hydropower area of the country, but again, extremely beautiful. And this is just one of the unfortunate things. Because renewable energies generally use very dilute sources of energy. There's not all that much energy in water or sunlight or air moving about compared to coal or even more uranium. Then it does mean that the local environmental effects tend to be very, very unpleasant indeed.
Well, that's right. And just like...
Do you mind if I ask him a question?
Please do.
I didn't think it was the one mic show. That was last week. I'm back here now.
Well, if it's relevant,
so, I'd quite like to ask a question. Well, it is relevant because what I was going to say to you, actually, Duncan, was... Malcolm, sorry, is... we saw this terrible mudslide.
Could you get our guest's name right?
We saw this terrible mudslide yesterday in Switzerland, right? Is it possible that it's all very well to have naturally occurring bodies of water in mountains, but if you start suddenly digging holes in mountains and putting water in, could that not have a sort of deleterious effect on the surrounding landscape?
I don't think it had anything to do with that, did it?
Well, I don't know.
No, I mean, I don't think there's been any suggestion in the areas where you tend to build them in good granite geologies because you don't want areas where the local soil or rocks will wear away, clearly, because you want this to run for several decades without too much erosion. So, and we should bear in mind, we've only just recently we've commemorated the tragedy at Aberfan, which was a coal plant. We have to make our energy in some way, and no source of energy is really very attractive. But not having enough energy, I think, is less attractive than any of them.
It is, but isn't the problem with the water the same as the problem with the wind turbines? If the wind isn't blowing, they're useless. And if it doesn't rain, which sometimes it doesn't in this country, we haven't got a reservoir.
Not on the same short scale. I mean, the problem with wind is that the wind variation can be hourly, but certainly can be daily. And there are days when there's no wind at all, and then the next day it can be very windy, and that is very difficult to manage. With hydropower, because you are pumping water uphill from spare electricity which is available, and you keep the reservoir pretty well topped up generally, then certainly there have been problems in the world with very dry periods. We've seen that in places like New Zealand, like Argentina, even California, which are quite heavily dependent on hydropower, and Norway. But they tend to be relatively rare, and there are other ways you can deal with it. But in extremis, yes, that can be an issue. But that's less the case with pumped storage, where you've got some control over the amount of water that you're putting into the reservoir, rather than normal sort of dammed hydropower, where there are times. There's been a big crisis in Brazil last year, for example, where very low rainfall did cause a serious crisis for power production. We're nowhere near those levels, though, as yet.
Right. Have you seen that study from Stanford University that came out this week, where it says that more than 70% of the countries in the world, including the UK, could run entirely on energy created by wind, water and solar by 2050?
I think it's complete balderdash. It's been taken apart very effectively by many people who are working in the field. It makes a number of assumptions.
This has been written by people working in the field as well, in the journal.
Well, there's one particular professor who seems to have this, Jacobson, who seems to have this view that is just not shared anywhere else in the serious community, and that happens occasionally in academia. He's making assumptions like, for example, there'll be a nuclear war every 15 or 20 years. He's making assumptions that India is going to cut its energy use by 40%, despite the fact that at the moment only 1 in 15 Indians runs a car and they want to move. If you make assumptions like that, or if you make the assumption that we all drop dead, then yes, you can.
But every scientist has to make assumptions because you're looking into the future, aren't you?
You're right, yes, but some assumptions I think are more reasonable than others, and some just there are arithmetic mistakes in the paper as well. But I mean, I think I think there's a real danger of talking about 100% or even 70% renewables. We should be moving forward in renewables, and we should be moving forward in storage because they have a contribution to make. They are low carbon. They don't depend on Middle Eastern or Russian oil or gas. And those are very great attractions. As I say, their environmental effects are pretty horrendous locally, and the issue of managing their intermittency is the really big one. What happens after a while, and even at our levels we're beginning to see it, is that it's not just a problem that what do you do when the wind isn't blowing? You need a lot of power stations to back it up. Increasingly, as you use more, it's what happens when all the wind is blowing and you're generating too much electricity. Because too much electricity can be as bad as too little. It can blow electronic equipment in the home. In the worst case, it can actually start melting the power wires. So you end up having to pay the companies producing the renewables, not only the big guaranteed subsidies they get, but also an extra amount of money to stop generating, to make up for the fact that they have special contracts that mean whenever they're generating, they're allowed to sell their power. And that produces huge distortions in the power market that we're beginning to see, particularly in Germany, where there are times when electricity is a good of negative value. Now, in a sense, that's okay for consumers, but what's the point of being energy efficient if someone's going to come around and say, I'll give you 3 times the normal marketplace price to take this electricity away? And for the countries around, as with any economic dumping, if you just dump something on your weaker economic neighbours and undermine then their own natural industry, you're not in the end doing them any favours, which is why we're not allowed to dump excess goods on third world countries and undermine their industry. It's enormously complex, all this.
It is very complex, and unfortunately we haven't got any more time to discuss it, Malcolm, but thank you so much, and finally for getting a proper phone as well. Well done. Malcolm Grimston there, who is Honorary Senior Researcher at the Centre for Energy Policy and Technology at Imperial College.
The 21st Century Dream Team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me. Ooh. Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do. Look what you just made me do. Look what you just made me do. I don't like your kingdom keys. They once belonged to me. You asked me for a place to sleep, locked me out and threw a feast. What? The world moves on another day, another drama, but not for me, not for me. All I think about is karma, and then the world moves on.
What do you think of that then?
Pretty good, bit bubblegummy.
Bit bubblegummy? That's Taylor Swift.
Yeah, what's she singing?
Her new single. She samples, the reason I'm playing it for you, she samples the I'm Too Sexy song by Right Said Fred.
Yeah, but I remember that one. It didn't sound like that.
No, well, when they sample it, it doesn't mean that she's redoing the whole song. She's just using a bit of it. Well, we have to keep listening to it until we hear the bit.
Look what you made me do. Look what you made me do.
Well, how long are we going to listen to this for?
That's it.
No.
That's the bit. That's the bit from the I'm Too Sexy.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
It's not. Right Said Fred sung a song which went like this. I'm too sexy for my shirt, too sexy for my...
And they also had that line in it as well. Look what you made me do. It did.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it did. Do you want us to play it for you?
Well, I did not hear, I'm too sexy for my shirt,
well,
too sexy for my shirt.
Let me tell you this. Fred Fairbrass, right,
Yeah.
Richard Fairbrass and Rob Manzoli are credited alongside Taylor Swift, right, on the track, which is destined to be the big new number one. And they said, thank you, Taylor Swift. What a marvellous reinvention.
Yeah.
So she has sampled their song.
Okay, she sampled it, but she hasn't sung it, has she?
Well, she just sang the line from it.
Yeah, they were a one-hit wonder, weren't they?
More or less, yeah.
What were they called?
Right Said Fred.
Right Said Fred, that's right. It was a stupid name for a group anyway.
Well, they made pretty good money out of it, and
Right
they'll make a
Said
bucket
Fred.
load of money out of this, by the way.
Well, no, they won't, because they didn't write it.
Yes, they did.
As far as I know, they didn't.
Well, they are credited on the new song by Taylor Swift.
As the previous performers, but as I understand it, I may be wrong, Fred and what's his brother's name?
Fred and Richard and Rob Manzoli are credited. That means they are credited with writing the song alongside Swift and Jack
I'll take it
Antonoff
back.
on the track.
You are the writer to the song. Well done.
Thank you.
But I thought it was a dreadful song the first time round.
Did you?
And the way that the guys postured on stage with their bald heads and naked torsos, as I recall it, made it very unpalatable for me to watch.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I bet you remember it, though, do you?
Hey?
You remember? Well, it was a bit of a sort of what I would call cabaret. That's what I saw it
All
as.
I remember is the opening line. I'm too sexy for
You've already
my
sung
shirt.
that bit.
Too sexy for my... I don't even know the next I'm too
well,
sexy
exactly.
for.
You don't, because you didn't know the line about, look what you made me do,
Yeah.
which is also another part of the song.
Yeah, it was around about the same time as Pet Shop Boys, wasn't it?
Well, I suppose that it was around about the same time as lots of people. But she's also saying Taylor Swift, because, she was recently in the news, of course, over that court case.
The £1 damages.
Which is now beginning to look like it may be some kind of a stunt, really, because she's apparently saying, I'm sorry, but the old Taylor can't come to the phone right now. Why? Oh, because she's dead. That comes at the end of the song. So she's now reinventing herself as something else. So it's no longer the nice, friendly, sort of happy-go-lucky Taylor Swift. It's going to be a slightly darker version.
And the lady who flew around the world in a private jet with the night manager.
Eh?
With the night manager.
Oh, yeah. Well, that was another stunt, though, wasn't it?
Hiddleston, was that?
Eh?
Was that Tom Hiddleston?
Tom Hiddleston, yeah.
Yeah, that's him, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, that wasn't really a proper love affair.
How do we know? How do you know?
Well, because it was timed, and I've told you this before,
Yeah.
it was timed for the release of The Night Manager in America.
Right, okay.
And that was when it happened. So nobody had heard of Tom Hiddleston in America.
Until then.
Now, and suddenly he was Taylor Swift's boyfriend.
Can you tell me why you're telling me all this? Because the relevance of Taylor Swift to our programme is beyond me.
Well, Taylor Swift is a very, very cultural icon of the moment.
She's got about 25 million Twitter followers.
As much as 25 million?
Yeah.
I think try more like 75 million.
Is it 75? Yeah, okay, yeah.
The problem is, you see, you like to talk about people like Sean Connery.
Yeah.
You like to talk about people like Shirley Bassey. You like to talk about people like Phil Collins. So what I'm trying to do, really, is make sure that we remain at least a little bit relevant to people who might have been born after 1995.
Yeah, no, I'm all for that. Yeah. I like getting down with the kids.
Do you?
That's why I'm going to be telling you. I'm going to be telling you shortly about the fact that our good associate, Sir Rod Stewart, is in fact bringing back one of his records 40 years on, and he's doing that with a band called DNCE, who I'm aware of, okay?
Oh, I don't know much about them, really.
Don't you?
No.
Well, they're sort of...
How many followers have they got on Twitter?
Oh, millions. But they're a kind of sort of boy band in America, and bringing back the song... Do You Think I'm Sexy?
Yes.
Which should be brilliant, I think, because it was a great, great song the first time round. He always said, look, I don't want to be singing Do You Think I'm Sexy when I'm age 50. That was obviously some interview he gave 3 or 4 decades ago. I'd be a parody of myself, but now he says, you've got to be able to laugh at yourself, haven't you?
Well, yeah. They've got 272,000 followers, by the way.
Who's that?
DNCE.
Yeah. And having shared his company on an afternoon of football, when we went up to Glasgow with Rod, I think we can both confirm he is a very affable guy and has got a great sense of humour.
He has a wonderful sense of humour. Yes. A very good guy. Now, what about this from Ross? We're going to try and pick a listography because we're going to do it soon.
Okay.
3 favourite venues who've done a 2 Mics live show and why.
Yes.
What do you think of that? Because you can talk about the actual the venues as well as the locale.
Okay, well, that's possible. What else have we got?
Well, we've got loads of other ones. I mean, are you not reading some of the ones that are coming in?
I'll start reading them, shall I? And then you will have to read them out to me. I don't know if I've got to do everything myself.
Well, you haven't got to do everything yourself. You're just going to do some things yourself.
Yes, okay. Let me have a look.
But there's lots and lots of suggestions that we've had. Yeah. But we've got to do the stories.
Yeah, okay.
I've offered you about 4 different suggestions so far, and you've turned them all down.
Yeah. I'm looking here.
Oh, yeah.
Right, what have we got here? We got... Oh, this is a shocking one anyway. This is not about listography. It says, I quite often dump my dying friends in cabs so I can get back to the table to get leathered. I do not think so. Shocking behaviour by Porky, and that comes from Jim.
That is shocking behaviour.
Well, that's only because MG has completely contorted and twisted the story, okay?
That's not true.
Yeah.
Absolutely not true. By the way, we've seen this story about the Samsung Air, the billionaire Samsung Air from South Korea.
Yeah.
Because you've got a Samsung phone, haven't you?
I certainly
know you like to try and keep ahead of the game on these things. He's been done for bribery, right?
Yeah.
And he's gone down for 5 years.
Golly.
His name is Lee Jae-yong. Jailed for 5 years in a scandal in South Korea, which has also led to the South Korean president being ousted.
Wow. And
he's apparently been convicted of offering bribes to the former president of South Korea.
To do what, though?
He's found guilty by a panel of 3 judges: embezzlement, hiding assets overseas, concealing profits from criminal acts, and perjury.
Golly, that's...
It marks a downfall for the scion of South Korea's richest family, which controls one of the world's largest consumer electronics companies.
Which one?
Samsung.
Oh, Samsung, I see.
He's 49, right? He's accused of offering $38 million in bribes.
Golly.
To 4 separate entities.
Golly, I mean, that's a bit of a scandal, and it's a scandal South Korea don't need at the moment, with North Korea rattling the sabre.
Well, exactly.
Just above them.
Apparently, one of the things he's been accused of doing is giving $6.4 million to the daughter of the former president.
Oh, yeah.
So that she could have a career in sort of equestrianism.
Really? Yeah. So buying horses and flying them around the world and all that kind of stuff, probably, yeah. Right, there's one here about the 3 favourite funerals. We've done all that, haven't we? You've
you
mentioned
said you didn't want to talk about it. That's how we ended up talking about Gordon Ducker.
I don't. Yeah, that's right. Do you want to do the 3 favourite venues?
I think that would work.
Yeah, okay.
Because you could talk about 3 places that we've been.
Okay.
You know, we've done Manchester, we've done Birmingham, we've done Portsmouth, we've done Liverpool,
done Cardiff,
we've done Glasgow, Edinburgh, Cardiff. Yeah. You know, Rugby, Whitley Bay, Newcastle. We're going to do New York.
Yes.
So, you know, there's plenty of places to choose from.
Okay, yeah, good idea.
You can tell us why you like those particular places.
Yes, okay, good idea.
If you wish.
Yes, I do.
Excellent.
Right.
Okay. Now, lots of other things to go on as well in this hour. We're going to talk about, what do you make of this story about the lorries? I mean, they seem to be going mad on it. All the newspapers have put it on their front pages. These kind of, cavalcades of lorries, caravans of lorries heading down motorways, right? I was listening to Edmund King on the Breakfast Show this morning.
Yes.
Your old friend from formerly of the RAC, now the AA.
Yes.
Who was saying that now there are people in this country now who don't drive on motorways already because they're frightened of them.
Well, I came back...
Can you imagine that?
I told you I came back from the down the M6, M1 from the northwest when I went to see Everton players. And it's frightening because the lanes are all very narrow. They I don't know what they're doing. They say they're turning that part of the motorway network into smart motorway, whatever that means. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
I don't know what that means, but the signs all over the place saying.
I heard him describing a smart motorway as somewhere where they use the hard shoulder as part of the exit lane for the next exit.
Right. Okay.
But I don't think I've ever seen that.
Well, I've never seen it. They're doing 3 consecutive junctions on the M6, just below the sort of northwest and down towards the Midlands. It's chaotic, but I'll tell you what, those lanes are now narrower, and if you've got a 40-ton juggernaut on your bumper, it is highly intimidating. Because it's all these 50 mile an hour, speed check type cameras, right? So you don't want to go more than 50 miles an hour,
right.
But the lorry behind you is almost touching your back bumper.
Well, I told you that day when I was coming back. I'd gone up to Birmingham ahead of one of our shows to talk to some people up there with one of our producer guys. And I was coming back down the M1.
That's right.
And this lorry was absolutely almost out of control and almost killed us. Deliberately.
Yeah, I know.
Because the guy was so incensed that I wouldn't let him out.
That's right.
Because we were in very narrow lanes and he was trying to overtake the lorry in front of him.
Yes.
And because I was not moving over,
that's right.
He was shaking his fist at me and eventually he waited, he put his brakes on, pulled out behind me and I was in the middle lane.
Yeah.
Then went into the third lane, which is illegal.
Yes, it is.
Then came past us, right, at high speed. And before the whole of his lorry had passed my car.
Tried to move in again.
No, he started moving in
again, yeah.
He didn't try to, he was doing it.
So you had to brake.
I had to brake and I had to pull over really fast into the slow lane.
Well, it's a good job there's nobody in the slow lane, unless you couldn't have pulled over.
If there had been somebody, if there had been another truck in there, I'd be dead now.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing the show.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shocking.
I wish I could meet him.
Absolutely shocking.
Anyway, look, that's something we're going to talk about in a minute or two.
Is that right?
Yes, that's
right.
We're
going to be talking to Kate Gibbs, who's from the Road Haulage Association.
That's right, yeah.
She'll be able to tell you what a smart motorway is.
Yes, well, she probably will.
No.
Whether or not it works in this country...
I imagine you'd be banned from using it.
What?
I imagine you'd be banned
Have you ever seen a lorry train in Australia?
I've seen pictures of one.
Yeah, okay.
I've never been to Australia.
I saw one, and they can be like 20 trailers long.
Yeah.
With a huge lorry at the front pulling them all, and it's a road train basically. It's
how do you turn it?
You don't. It goes on a straight road from Sydney to Perth.
Yeah,
There's
well,
no
that's
turning.
not good then, is it?
There's no turning.
Right.
And what happens is when you get to the conurbation, which is Sydney or Perth, then you pull into a designated sort of
and
stopping
it all gets
place.
Unloaded.
They release then all the trailers and put them onto separate cabs, which take them into the city.
You wouldn't want to be responsible for driving something like that, would you?
Why not? It's quite easy if you just go in a straight line, or if not a straight line.
Well, you can barely drive anywhere without getting a puncture.
No,
you're running some kind of road track.
Well, we're not going to get into punctures. I'm sorry, that's sub judice.
All right.
Yeah.
Sub judice.
Oh,
you have to tell me more about this.
Yeah.
Sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate, and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Talk Radio, and we are the Two Mics. We've just been talking about Taylor Swift. She's got 85 million followers, by the way. And on Talk Radio's Twitter account, there is actually a little note that says, what do you think of Taylor Swift's new song? Because we've given our thoughts on it already. Yeah. It's to prove that we are indeed up with the zeitgeist. If you're with the zeitgeist, right, you know all the big stories that are going to happen. Yes. But this story today, which is dominating all the news, seems to have come out of nowhere. What? This idea that we're going to have sort of driverless, Wi-Fi, long lorries taking over motorways. Sure. And we're going to talk now to Kate Gibbs, who is from the Road Haulage Association. It's probably an incredibly busy day today, because I don't know where this story's come from and whether it's ever actually going to happen. Kate, a very good morning to you. Welcome.
Hello, Mike.
Yes.
Now, hi, Kate. Now, you may have been quite busy this morning with this story. I mean, why has it come out now, and is it ever going to actually happen?
Well, this actually hasn't come out of the blue. This has been rumbling away in the background for about 18 months, 2 years now. It's quite common practice in a lot of the European countries, but as we, for those of us who have travelled in the European countries, for example, the Netherlands, they have very different road networks to us in that, they're long, straight roads, and they're not as highly populated as in the UK, and they don't have as much traffic on the roads. So for them, yes, it's an excellent system of moving goods from A to B. But for the UK, we don't know if it's going to be the most effective way of transporting goods. Now, we keep hearing that as far as the technology are concerned, can we say first of all that these are not driverless trucks? I think this came about because when the concept was first published, they were called autonomous vehicles. And I think that put into people's heads, autonomous, that means like radio-controlled. No, they're not like that at all. Every single truck in that, what we call platoon, will have its own driver.
So what is the purpose of the description of these being driven by satellite rather than a human being?
I think we're talking vehicle telematics, which is the really big thing these days. I think all our cars are fitted with sensors and. So
is it auto drive to?
It will be. I think. I'm saying I think because the devil really lies in the detail on this. We haven't got all the details. Now, what we have been hearing in the past 24 hours is about the cost savings in as much as, obviously, if you've got three vehicles driving closely together, the aerodynamics of that will be much more beneficial than one vehicle. So that's going to save on fuel. It's going to save on emissions, so it's going to help the environment. But as far as we at the RHA are concerned, our biggest worry is that none of these advantages must be gained at the cost of safety.
No, sure.
So are you saying you're in favour of this, broadly speaking, as long as it's done right?
As long as it's done properly, but once these trials are over, we will want to be part of the consultation process, and we will want to be going down into the details of the testing, with a fine-tooth comb, because this really is a case of the devil lying in the detail.
Sure. Now, Kate, I came back from the northwest this week. I went up on the M40, came back on the M6, M1. And I have to say, it's already terribly frightening for motorists who are on those reduced width lanes on the first 3 or 4 sections of the M6 once you've come off the M1, because the lorries are very wide vehicles in very narrow lanes. It's highly intimidating if you're squeezed between two lorries, and one's on your bumper and the other one's right in front of you, 40 tons of it or whatever. Don't you think public confidence in motorways will suffer as much as the efficiency or inefficiency of these vehicles?
Well, Mike, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Which is why we're saying, yes, the advantages. Advantages good, disadvantages must not include problems for safety. And yes, it can be intimidating. I've been in that situation myself. And even worse, in bad weather conditions.
Indeed.
But we need to know, for example, if you've got 3 lorries driving in convoy, or a platoon as they are called, are they all going to be going to the same destination? if one has to, say, for example, come off the motorway and make a drop at somewhere.
Yes, en route.
Somewhere on. Thank you.
Yep.
Somewhere en route. What will be the process for that? Will the one behind slow down? Will he have to take full control? And of course, as soon as you make that gap, as soon as you break that gap, because one vehicle has pulled out to turn left, is that gap suddenly going to be filled up by a car?
I mean, wouldn't it be more sensible, Kat? I know you haven't got much time here, so I'll make this the last question. Wouldn't it be more sensible if they just admitted that the road system in this country is obsolete and not really fit for purpose? And if you want to build better roads and more roads which can be used separately by lorries and cars, that would be the way forward.
The cost of that would be astronomical.
Well, not if there were toll roads. There's a toll road in the Midlands, which I use all the time. That pays for itself.
The M6 toll,
Yeah.
But again, you see, if you include toll roads, then certainly for for our members, any additional money that they have to spend out has to be passed on to the customer.
Yeah. Well, that's what you always say, but that doesn't mean you have to do it, though, does it?
Yeah, but if you start introducing tolls, so the haulier has to pay extra, that will be put onto his bill for his customer, and the buck stops with you and I, because you will see goods in the supermarkets that have to reflect those increases.
But if you've got 1,000 boxes of football shirts on the back of a lorry, and the toll is £30 to use the toll road, that's a few pence on each shirt. I mean, it's nothing. And yet it provides more road space and a safer environment.
Yes, but you're talking about one vehicle. We're talking about thousands.
Yeah, but Mike's right.
And as far as the M6 toll is concerned, that you don't actually see that many HGVs using it.
No, that's why people like using it, because it's actually freer and safer.
Yeah.
But Kate, listen, I know you've got to go and do something else. We're going to let you go. Thank you very much indeed. Kate Gibbs there from the Road Haulage Association. I mean, I'm with you there. I don't understand why they always say, oh, well, of course, it has to be passed on to the consumer. Yeah. Well, why? Why can't you just make a saving somewhere else? 30 quid per lorry? Yeah. Just put it on the price of...
Just think of tyre costs when a tyre bursts on the motorway and you see them lying on the side, shredded.
Do they pass that on to the consumer?
Exactly.
It's a bit of a racket, to be honest. Anyway, I don't think this is ever going to happen, and if they were going to be serious about it, I think they should build separate roads like some European countries do for heavy goods vehicles, and cars can drive safely.
I'm all for more roads.
I don't mind
more
that.
roads.
I don't mind
freedom to the individual.
Here's one from Tipper, who says, Porky loves driving on motorways. He just uses the uncrowded lanes with a red X above them.
Yeah, I do, actually. Yeah, I nearly got done for that. Yeah, but I didn't.
I know you did.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Two Mics, this is Talk Radio, and we are now stuck in the middle of Listography. We're going to be doing it about the three favourite venues and the three favourite places we've done Two Mics live shows. Now, you'd have to say, without wishing to cast aspersions on anywhere that doesn't make the final cut, we have done... obviously, quite a few in London. We've done Portsmouth. We've done Birmingham a couple of times. We've done Manchester a couple of times. We've done Liverpool. We've done Edinburgh, the festival last year. We've done Glasgow. We've done Cardiff. We've done Rugby, which was quite a cool theatre. We did Whitley Bay. We did Newcastle. Anywhere we missed? I think that's it, isn't it? And we're going to New York, of course, in
September. We've done some of those twice, of course.
Yes.
Right, OK, well, you go first, then.
So I'm going to start, actually, and I know that I don't want to nick one of yours, but I'm going to say Newcastle, right? Because the theatre that we played there was amazing. It was the Newcastle Theatre and Opera House.
It was Phantom of the Opera stuff.
Yeah, and it was like when you were standing on the stage, it looked like you're inside one of those wedding cake type theatres. It was all very ornate. There were lots of balconies and lots of little boxes, and the crowd were really, really good. But what I really liked was they had this trapdoor in the floor, which you decided in your wisdom to start the show coming out of.
I did.
A bit like the Phantom of the Opera.
That's right.
And it was a fantastic show. Really, really sort of made you feel like you were part of the theatrical world, Because some of the places we do are either kind of, sort of slightly more music-oriented or slightly more sort of warehouse-like.
That's right, yeah.
But I just thought it was a lovely theatre. And, of course, the fact that we were ending up staying in a hotel right opposite Newcastle Football Ground
St James's Park.
The Sandman, I think it was
That's
called,
right,
wasn't it?
yeah.
And that bar there, which was great, which we stayed in. I stayed in certainly till
What
about
was the bar
3:30 in the morning. The Shark Bar.
The Shark Bar.
Which had
very attractive people in the Shark Bar.
Very attractive people in the Shark Bar, which you were quite taken by.
I certainly was.
And it was a great night out, and it was a great. And I didn't see as much of the city as I would have liked to.
No.
So we should probably go back at some point and do it again.
Maybe.
Was it the big market that you talk about?
Yes, that's right.
And Geordies are great people. It was just it was a lovely night out.
Big market's not the place anymore. It's down on the quayside. It's taken over the big market.
Okay.
But now, when I put out the last one saying the quayside, no, it's moved up into town now.
Okay.
Somewhere else. But
right.
anyway, no,
that's my first one because, and also I'd never been. Ridiculous as it sounds, I've never really been to Newcastle.
No, that's right.
I've only driven through it.
But also, you've missed another factor that happened there. I got trapped behind the door.
That's right, you did. You did. You got locked downstairs in the kind of
I did.
bowels of the theatre.
I was trying to get out the theatre, so I went for a fire exit to avoid the crowds, to be honest. And the problem was, I went through one fire door, which locked behind me, but then the fire door, contrary to fire door rules, was chained.
Oh, dear.
So I couldn't get out.
You made me not want to give that away to
No,
you.
well,
might be prosecuted for that.
Yeah.
And that was the funny thing, because I think about an hour went past, and we were all wondering where you were.
That's right.
And you rang my daughter, I think.
That's right.
Who then had to come and we had to come and find you. And there was a great picture that was taken of you.
Through the frosted
kind of
glass.
peering through the frosted glass.
Yeah.
And you actually surprisingly weren't in a terribly bad mood about the fact that you'd been locked there for about an hour.
No, well, these
without
things happen.
anybody's help.
Well, I think one of them that I really felt about was Birmingham. The Rep.
Yes.
And the reason for it was that until then we'd only played the Hen and Chickens.
Yes.
Which is a great little theatre
in
bar.
Islington, yeah.
In Islington, at Highbury Corner, and very local. And because the crowd is so packed in, there's only 50 seats. It was a fantastic start to our live sort of career.
Yes.
So when we both decided we're going to expand and go out. So we showed them out. So I went up there and I looked at it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe it because it was a real theatre.
This is the first sort of the studio.
Not to decry anybody at the Hen and Chickens, which we love, and hope we will go back and do a free show there.
But it's only 48 seats, isn't it?
It's only 48 seats, yeah. I don't know, a free concert there or something like that. But anyway, point is that when I got in there, I thought, this is like a real theatre. I don't know if we're going to fill this. Yeah. And I think you had the same feeling because you talked about going up and seeing the theatre in the last story you were doing about haulage and all that. Well, that's the one we heard. And you came back and said to me, how did we get here? Yeah. Because it was an enormous stride. It was like a 600-seat theatre from 50. So we didn't know we were going to fill it, but we did. Yeah. And unfortunately, the real memory of that night is that we'd finished the show, we came out the theatre, we were going back to a hotel which was nearby. Yeah. It wasn't a particularly great hotel, but it was it was walking handy. Distance, it was walking distance. When we first heard of the horrors in Paris.
That's right, yeah.
It happened on that night. Yeah. The Bataclan.
Yes,
right. It was the Bataclan, was it?
The Bataclan.
Bataclan, thank you very much indeed. Yeah. And, of course...
November the 15th, I think it was.
November the 15th. And, of course, the thing was... we didn't care. I know that sounds very selfish, but we were on a big high. We'd just finished our first major show in a provincial city, Birmingham. We were going back to the hotel to celebrate and get some drink downs, all that kind of stuff. And we thought it was some minor incident. We had no idea.
Well, we didn't really know.
We didn't know anything. We didn't know. We just heard there's been some incident in Paris. And we woke up the next morning to find the true horror of it. Yeah. So that was a very memorable night.
It was, yeah. Absolutely horrible. Right. Now, I'm going to put my second one down as Liverpool.
Right, okay.
Because that was, again, a bit of a milestone for us because we played the O2, which is the O2 Academy Theatre, which was quite a big venue. Previously played by all sorts of luminaries. And things that I always like about these stories is other people that have played there. For example, I think Katie Tunstall had played there the night before we played there. Paul Weller had done a whole set there.
That's right.
All sorts of, quite famous rock stars had played at this particular venue in Liverpool, and we'd sold it out.
That's right.
And it was one of those great nights, and we arrived in Liverpool, and I mean, it was, even though we moaned and groaned about it, we stayed at a place called the Adelphi Hotel.
Worst hotel we've ever been in.
Absolutely and utterly the worst hotel we've ever been in. Terribly badly run. But it was a remarkable night as well, because I ended up, after the show, in a pub with my daughter and with the promoter and a couple of other people as well, doing a bit of karaoke. Sean, the promoter, doing a bit of karaoke. Very great guy, who will be doing some more business with very shortly.
We will.
And singing a great version, which you love, of course, which went out on Twitter, of your friend Liam Gallagher and Noel Gallagher's song, Don't Look Back in Anger.
Yeah, I've never heard it, actually.
Well, I'm going to put it out again.
Oh, yeah, right.
Just to remind people.
Yeah,
but it also, Liverpool is a place that I used to go to a lot as a kid because my sister was a Liverpool fan.
Yes.
And it was just a great place to go.
Yeah, sure.
Unfortunately, we had to go up and come back in quite quick order because we had to come back and do a show here.
Yeah, we did.
In the morning,
very early. We got up at 5 and left at 5:15. Yeah. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, but what a great night. And an amazing scene to see loads of people queuing up outside to get in.
It was, yeah.
I think it was raining as well.
It was raining as well. So my second one is the Lowry. Now, that's the biggest one we've ever done. I think that was, going up to sort of 750, 800 people and packed theatre.
Yeah.
And what I liked about it was, A, the theatre was brilliant, okay? B, it was easy for me to get there because I went on the train.
Yes.
So I got off at Piccadilly Station.
Yeah.
And before I left the station, they said, get on that tram there. I got on the tram, and the tram took me right out to Salford, where the Lowry Theatre is.
Yes.
It's nothing to do with the Lowry Hotel, by the way, which we thought it was. The Lowry Hotel is miles away.
That's where Jose Mourinho's been staying, isn't it?
That's where Jose Mourinho's been staying, and that is dedicated to the artist, what's his name? L.S. Lowry, whereas the Lowry is a completely different concept. But anyway, the point is, it was a great show that night. We spent longer with the crowd afterwards than we have anywhere else, nearly 2 hours, and, selling T-shirts and DVDs and pictures and all that kind of stuff. But the real memory of it is that we stayed. I don't think it was a Holiday Inn. It was a hotel in the Salford Quays complex, right?
It was a Holiday Inn, yeah.
It was a Holiday Inn. Okay, yeah. So we come down next morning.
They wanted to charge you some ludicrous amount of money.
Well,
for
this is what I'm saying. Right. So I come down next morning. This is a hotel in the north of England, right? Yeah. This is my abiding memory of it. Great show the night before. So much goodwill about.
Yeah.
And I walked into the breakfast room and said, "Oh, hello." I said, "Look, I just want a quick breakfast." I said, "I'm getting the train back. My mate's not in such a rush as me. He'll be down a bit later. He's going in the car." I said, "Oh, okay, sir. You want a table for one?" I said, "Yes, fine." They said, "Okay, can you pay for it now?" I said, "I haven't anything to eat yet."
Yeah.
No, I said, "Well, isn't it included in that?" I said, "We paid 130 quid for your rooms."
Expensive, actually.
Yeah,
150 might have been more than that.
Yeah, something like that, 150 quid or something like that. And they said, "No, you got to pay first." I said, "Oh, okay." I said, "Well, what is it then? How much?" He said, £18.50.
Yeah.
I said, "Are you mad?" And they said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't pay that for breakfast in a hotel in London."
£18.50.
Yeah, so I'm not paying it up here. I said, "What do you get for that?" "Oh, full English." I said, "What, you mean the buffet?
Yeah.
Sausages, bacon, bit of black pudding.
Any caviar thrown in?"
I said, "Forget it." And, there's no need to be like that. I said, "Does everything need to be like that?" And guess where I went for breakfast?
I don't know, Wetherspoons.
Wetherspoons, yeah.
There was one round the corner.
£4.50.
Well, we did the same. We didn't stay there for breakfast because we came down and they told us that you'd had a big row with them.
That's right.
And I said, "Well, I'm not surprised at those kind of prices." They said, "You won't expect us to pay in excess of like 60 quid
That's right.
for 3 breakfasts."
Yeah, but then guess what
You're
happened?
joking.
When I was in Wetherspoons, somebody texted me, because I had my mobile phone number, you know, from when I checked in, and said, "We're very sorry, misunderstanding. We'll now offer you a free breakfast."
Oh, yeah?
I was in Wetherspoons.
Well, they didn't offer us a free breakfast.
They offered me a free one, yeah.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't got a lot of time, so I'm just going to say the Edinburgh Festival. I have to say that because the Edinburgh Festival was another sort of yardstick in our career.
Very
we
memorable.
Did 3 nights in a row.
Yeah.
Very, very late working.
Yeah.
Sort of going on stage at 11 p.m. and getting home at about 6.
Yes, very
in time
memorable.
for dawn. Sometimes with a kebab on the way home.
Yeah.
But a fantastic experience.
Huge
to have
event.
done.
Huge
and I love
event.
Edinburgh because it's a beautiful city.
It is a beautiful city.
We made a DVD while we were there as well, which you can still get, of course, if you want to, on the 2mics.co.uk.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, those are the probably 6 best shows that we've done.
Well, I've only done 2.
Have you?
Yeah.
Oh, have you?
All right. My last one has to be Rugby, because the hotel's the worst I've ever stayed in.
Yes.
I mean, I go on about the Grosvenor Hotel in Chester, being Dorchester in the north.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not joking. The hotel in Rugby was called the Grosvenor Hotel. The Pits. It's the worst hotel.
It didn't even have a bar.
It didn't have a bar.
It had a vending machine with beer in it, which I've never seen anywhere in my life.
Did it? Did it?
Yeah, it had a vending machine with cans of beer in it.
Oh, did it? I didn't know that. I mean, I don't think I stayed up after. I was so disgusted with the place. I thought,
well, you booked it.
Yeah, well, somebody's got a book, hasn't it? And when you look at the blurb and it's brilliant hotel and all that kind of stuff. No, it was rubbish.
Yes,
I'm never going back to Rugby. It's
really?
Rubbish town as well. I'm afraid.
It?
No, I like the people who came, but they came from all over the country.
Right. I don't think you should slag off Rugby as a town.
I'm not slagging off Rugby.
I think that's very harsh.
Yeah, it is a bit harsh. I'm
very
sorry
harsh.
about that. Yeah.
Try not to alienate as many people.
No, I don't
as
want to
you
alienate
possibly
anybody. No,
heaven's sake. We unfortunately that's Listography finished, so that we don't slag off any other parts of the country.
Absolutely.
We're going to New York in September though, so that'll be good.
Yeah.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate, and discourse. The 2 Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Talk Radio. We are the Two Mics, and of course we are here until 1 o'clock. Lots going on. We're here on Monday as well, by the way, Bank Holiday Monday at 1 and from 10 till 1 as well. Pete says this: is the Porky quiz on Holland? Is it on Belgium? It's not looking good for Porky. 1 out of 10 maximum. And Martin says, my 11-year-old daughter Maisie loves listening to you guys. It would be great if Porky could say hello, please, today.
Okay. Who's that, Maisie?
Maisie, she's 11. Yeah.
11. Maisie, if you're listening, thank you very much indeed for listening to us. We are the Two Mics. You are Maisie, and you are now...
She knows who she is, I think.
You are a very honoured listener to the Two Mics, so keep listening, please.
Indeed.
And if you grow up listening to the wisdom of the Two Mics, you will turn into a fine young lady.
I'm sure that's true.
Indeed.
There are many, many different people of many different ages that listen to this show, but there's an interesting age-related story that we're about to do now.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to Ashley Whitman about it, right, who is the director of Robert Half UK.
Yeah.
Because apparently people start hating their jobs around the age of about 35.
I know.
Now, I don't know what job you were doing when you were 35, but I've never really hated my job.
I've never hated my job. I've always loved my job.
Yeah.
Seriously, I've been very lucky to get into a profession where I've loved every minute of every day that I've done.
Yeah.
Even though, things go wrong and go terribly wrong and go disastrously
wrong. And you get fired.
And you're fired, and then you get hired, and you get fired, and things don't work out. You go off and invest money in projects yourselves, and it doesn't. But it's the challenge of trying to do it all, So at 35, I'll tell you, I was the youngest news editor in Fleet Street, and I was king of the crop.
Are you sure you were the youngest news editor in Fleet Street? What year was that?
35, let me see. I was made, that would be about
mid-80s?
87. About 87.
Because was not Piers Morgan already the editor of the News of the World at that time?
He certainly was, yeah.
I was
hoping, no, it wasn't 87, it was 90. Because
I was hoping to come back to the United Kingdom as the youngest editor ever in Fleet Street.
Yes.
And he already beat me too. He was about 4 years younger than me.
He was 28 when he was made editor of News of the World.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
So he was already editor of a paper. If he was 35, he was only a news editor. That's not very good.
No, I agree. But he hadn't, had he? No, he hadn't been made editor of the News of the World by then. No way at all.
Okay.
That didn't happen until about 92 or 3.
No, I think you're wrong about
that.
No,
I'm not, because he was still doing Bizarre.
Let's talk to Ashley Whitman, because over at Milton Keynes, where Ashley's based, Robert Half UK did this study and discovered that people start hating their jobs around about 35.
Yeah.
Ashley, very good morning to you. How did you work this one out?
Yeah, good morning, guys. To be fair, it was looking into rather than just the way that teams were made up, but what made people happy. And I think you both nailed it. If you enjoy what you do, then you're never going to feel it's a job. You're going to feel it's something you enjoy doing. And I don't think our study said that people hated what they do. I think they just started to have more burden with maybe understanding the work-life balance, maybe the stress in their job, and just making sure that we understood what was making them tick, what was making good, and what was making bad for their work life enjoyment and their happiness at work.
Right. I mean, one of the things I suppose that's changed now, and I know this because I've got a daughter who's in her mid-20s, working her way through a business which is very competitive. It seems like it was easier in a way for us. I mean, I don't know if it was easier, but I mean, myself and Mr. Parry both were in the newspaper business, from sort of 80s onwards, and we had a great time. It seems now that you can't make the kind of money that you used to be able to make in that particular business, that you can't have the fun that you used to be able to have, the expenses aren't as good, they get sent to me as many places as you did before. I think it's harder for young people now, isn't it?
I think we've got different expectations. I think you go back to the kind of time you guys were talking about. You had a generation. Now you've got 2-3 different generations working together. The social media aspect of the younger generation is completely different to the established baby boomers, those over 50, 55, and therefore you've got a complex web of expectations across the board. So it's difficult to make everyone happy. But you're right. I think that we've got to do different things now to engage complete teams, and I think businesses are looking at that and making sure that they're addressing it.
Sure. Actually, if somebody is already hating their job at 35, they're a loser, aren't they? Because they've got to face up to the fact they've got probably another 25 or 30.
What are you saying? They didn't say they hated it, though.
Or in this day and age, 35 years of work to go. Yeah, OK, you say, well, your report didn't say they hated it. But what I'm saying is, at 35, somebody should be in the prime of their professional ambitions and be going forward, not having doubts about where they're going.
Right, so I think... the hate part, I mean, just put it in context, we're talking between 17 and 20% of people that are not comfortable. So I guess we can look at it that 80% are. But I think you're right. I think now individuals have got to ask themselves, are they the right fit for the company? Are they in the right role, doing the right job? And I think that the age of a job for life has gone, and statistically, individuals are now working for 4 different businesses during their career, and therefore the ability to move from role to role, the ability to move from company to company. I think the key drivers that we found was that actually, although work-life balance and individuals being part of a team were important and the stress was important, the key factors that could really alter the way that an individual felt was just being appreciated and valued in what they do. I mean, if you guys feel that you're doing a good job on the radio, I'm sure you continue to do a good job. And I think that's the key finding, making sure you appreciate the people you've got working for you. Yeah,
sure. How much a part of somebody's life is job satisfaction?
Very, very important. But I think individuals now are looking to not just, as maybe they've done before, be part of the process. They want to understand what is it that they do that has then the outcome that affects the business. So no longer do that and then go in at 9, leave at 5. When I'm doing what I'm doing, what's the outcome? What actually does that mean? Am I appreciating what I do? And have I got interesting and meaningful work that is relevant to me? But I think, guys, what we have to bear in mind is this is very much a personal, very individual and unique feeling. So individuals doing the same role can feel very differently under the same factors.
And what is it about job sort of security that has changed? Because you were saying that the job for life is no longer a thing. When did that? Why is that the case?
I think industries change. So as a society, we've now moved across from different areas. I often refer to the fact that the chimney sweep of old is now the sky engineer of today. So the skill sets are the same, but rather than going up the chimney, going outside the chimney. And it's a question of individuals now appreciate that organisations change, our demands and our wants change, and therefore they have to flex to the nature of the organisations. And therefore, if you look at the top 100 firms in the UK, how many of them were actually incorporated in the last 20 years? Quite a majority. So those organisations haven't even got people with tenure over 20 years. So I think it's a mix. It really is. I think what the report really did show was that if individuals are working in a flexible, open environment where they can be respected and feel that they're contributing, that was a factor of retention. And I think businesses today that are successful are those that can retain, develop and motivate staff. OK.
The other interesting thing, Ashley, about the modern world is the number of people who now work for themselves. Now, it's a much, much harder job to motivate yourself to get out of bed every morning, to do your own, work for yourself, work your own business, is a lot more difficult than going in knowing, and particularly in the public sector, you'll get a day's wages even if you pull a sickie, you know what I mean? Now, in that case, there are disadvantages to working for yourself, but there's also tremendous advantages in being in control. That must contribute to job satisfaction.
Absolutely, and I think you hit the nail on the head. But then that comes back to that unique experience. There are some that will enjoy having their own business, making their own decisions. There are others that like to be part of a larger corporate culture. And I think that with modern day technology and a combination of the different and variety of roles that we now have as a society, I think that individuals will experience different companies, different industries, different roles, and eventually will find what's right for them. But you're right. I think those individuals that are self-employed or those individuals that are working for smaller companies, they make our communities and our industries tick. And it's about what makes them happy, which is going to be different to the corporate environment. Absolutely.
So, Ashley, I don't know how old you are, but when are you chucking in the job you got now to go for something better?
Yeah.
So I must admit, I'm quite unique in my age range because I've actually been with Robert Half for 18 years, and I've always felt that my roles have always evolved. But if I look at the reasons why I'm here, it's because I feel that I'm appreciated and also have got the ability to make decisions on my own back whilst working within a framework. So
you're also a director as well, which helps, doesn't it?
It helps. It helps, but all of our directors, which I think, this isn't unique to Robert Half. There are many other organisations the same way. But all of our directors started doing the job first. No one came in a leadership role and then was appointed. So I think that there's probably an aspirational part for our new hires, but also an understanding that what everyone in the organisation does today, we've probably done. So,
leadership is a good thing to talk about. It's something I specialise in, actually.
People always talk about Porky as a leader.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leader of men. Listen, Ashley, we've got to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed. Ashley Whitman there, who is from an organisation known as the, what's it called? the Robert Half UK.
What do you mean, what's it called?
Robert
You just said
Half
he's been
UK.
18 years at Robert Half, didn't you?
Robert Half UK. Well, I've never heard of Robert Half before today.
It doesn't matter. He mentioned it the last answer to you.
Okay.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Now, how many bottles of Pinot Grigio would you say you drink in any given year?
Yeah. No more than 100.
No more than 100.
No.
2 bottles a week,
Yes.
roughly.
Yes.
You think that's about fair? That's a kind of modest prediction of yours, isn't it?
Well, that's on medical advice.
On medical advice, 2
Yes.
bottles a week.
Yes.
Well, I'm going to dispute
Yes.
that, but I'm not going to get into your personal habits because it's probably not the time to do it.
Okay.
Let's talk to Helena Nicklin, who has, on previous occasions, actually been in the studio with us. She is, of course, a wine writer, a wine translator as well.
Yep.
And she's going to tell us what is going on with the Pinot grape. Helena, very good afternoon and welcome back.
Good, hello. Well, good afternoon, Mike and Mike. How are you?
Very well indeed,
Now,
and all the better from hearing from you for 2 reasons, Helena, because you're a terrific person and wine is one of my favourite subjects.
Well, it is. And unfortunately, on this occasion, we haven't actually got any to drink because the last 2 times we've been talking to you, we managed to have some glasses of stuff to try. But
see how needy and ungrateful he is,
Not at all.
Isn't it disgraceful?
No, I'm just...
First thing you mention is that Helena's not in the studio with some free wine.
No, I don't mean that she should provide the wine.
Well, it sounded like
No,
that.
because the last time, which you've probably forgotten, we actually had some wine provided by talkRADIO.
Yes, okay.
Because we had to test the difference between expensive wine and cheaper wine.
Yes.
But Pinot Grigio, generally speaking, Helen, is a sort of cheaper option, is it not?
Yes, it is. It rarely reaches the heady heights of fine wine, it must be said.
Yeah, but it's a party wine. It's an acceptable wine. It's the wine of choice if you're going out for, not an expensive meal. And the other thing I would say is, Helen, you know better, I've never had a bad bottle of Pinot Grigio, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, well, it's pretty harmless, isn't it? I think people have really gone for it because it's quite neutral. It's really easy to drink. It doesn't have any massively loud flavours. It's just kind of neutral and, drinkable, but not that interesting.
Now, one of the reasons I talk to you is it says that one grape in particular in a booming wine sales has seen its popularity more than double. Sales of Pinot Grigio have increased across the board by 130% in recent weeks. This is put down to the summer weather, both good weather in which people find an excuse to have a glass because the sun shines out, and bad weather in which people stay in and don't go out but drink at home. Does all that make sense to you?
It makes perfect sense to me. And the biggest thing, because I spoke to Marks and Spencer's about this morning,
right?
The biggest thing is the massive surge became right at the beginning of the school holidays.
I see.
And having 2 small children myself, I totally get it.
Yes.
This is sort of a hard-working mothers and fathers turning to the vino at the end of a long day looking after 2 children.
Well, yeah, and play dates with mummies. Wine o'clock starts a little bit earlier sometimes.
Now, Helena...
don't give too much away, Helena. You know what the PC police are like.
Yeah, exactly. Now, just looking at the history of Pinot Grigio, of course, I assume it's an Italian wine and all that, but I'm told it originated from Burgundy, where it's known as Pinot Gris, but then it was taken on by the Italians, and somebody somewhere who's got a business brain in their head must have decided, I know, the British are a bunch of dipsoaks, so why don't we send hundreds of thousands of cases of Pinot Grigio over to Britain? So how did it all come about?
Well, I'm not entirely sure, but one thing's for certain is that, a million years ago it was in Burgundy, but Burgundy is not known for this grape at all. Alsace in France is the place where actually it makes really, really nice wine. I think it got popular over here, though, just after the Chardonnay revolution, when all that people got a bit fed up of the big, sickly, oaky Chardonnays. They wanted something crisp and clean. Pinot Grigio, a supermarket got in there, and then everyone else followed.
Well, I think that's a great way to describe how the palate was turned by
do you
this,
even know where your
wine.
favourite Pinot Grigio comes from? I mean, when you go and seek it out, right? When you go to your sort of cost cutter of midnight bladderated at Sutton Station, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know which one you like? Do you care which one you get?
No, at that time of night I've usually got double vision, so
really?
It doesn't really matter.
I'm
being flippant here. The point is that one Pinot Grigio, Helena, tastes much like another, doesn't it? That's the whole beauty of it.
Yeah, I mean, you can get some much better ones, but it doesn't vary that much. However, it does have an alter ego. That makes a very different style of wine. Pinot Gris is the same grape, but it makes a much richer, much more food-friendly, more interesting wine, some might say.
And is it? Does it taste better?
Well, if you like it a little richer, maybe a little riper. I don't want to say sweet because that's not necessarily what I mean. But if you like it slightly more full-bodied. Yes, and more floral.
Okay.
Yeah, and you go to Alsace for that. It's really good there.
Okay,
Alsace is very nice.
Yeah.
Now, I was only able to sort of send you a picture of one bottle of red wine that I tried when I was in Greece because I just got back from there. And I think you said it was okay. The one that you recommended, I couldn't really find anywhere because mostly when we went out, we didn't really go for, a lot of the restaurants have these quite expansive wine lists. And in the end, partly because we had the kids and everything else, we didn't really get stuck into serious wine drinking. We just kind of drank by the glass, whatever they had. It wasn't, and it was all quite good. So I have to say, I kind of failed in my mission to discover any fantastic Greek wines, I'm afraid.
Well, do you know what? There are a lot of people at the moment selling some really interesting ones in the UK. I've seen loads of press releases recently, maybe because people have come back from holiday. But Acertico, that's with a Y, is the white grape that you will now find in most places. And it's really nice. It's like Pinot Grigio, but just a little bit more complexity and flavour.
Okay. And the last time we spoke, we were going to try and find somebody to sponsor us to drink a very expensive bottle of £20,000 wine. Yes. I wonder if you've made any progress towards that particular end.
Those pals of yours at Petrus,
Yeah, well, they're awaiting a good enough reason.
Do you know, I had a thought, actually, when I was away.
You had a thought?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Blimey, I'm surprised you had time. He was on the Ouzo, by the way, over in Rhodes.
No, I had half a bottle of Ouzo throughout the course of the week. I bought a small bottle, and I had one glass of it every night with some ice.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so what was this thought you had?
The thought I had is maybe we should crowdfund it.
Crowdfund it?
Crowdfund us drinking a 20,000 bottle of wine. Do you think people would go for that?
Definitely. Oh, why wouldn't they?
I mean, Porky is about as unpopular now as he's ever been because he had to do the show on his own last week, which almost broke down the entire radio station and the network, right?
A surge in listening
He also
figures.
told a terrible story this morning about how he put a very sickly friend into a cab.
He's dying.
He was actually on his, he was dying into a cab so that he could continue drinking in Joe Allen's in Covent Garden.
Well, he took ill at the lunch, and I didn't want to waste the very expensive wine we'd bought. So I made sure I looked after him. I got him sent home.
No, indeed. So we're already pretty unpopular with Porky's point of view. So I wonder if we couldn't become any more unpopular by asking people just to kind of, subsidise us to drink some very expensive wine.
I think this
we'd film it, of course. Yeah, I mean, it'd be like a project.
Yeah, I honestly, Eleanor, this man's head is in the clouds sometimes. I think you'll find that by the time we have performed live in New York in September, right, which is our next big project going over there,
I know.
We'll have people from Petrus chasing us down the street just to get a bottle of that £20,000 wine on the table that's between us on the stage, our standard prop at a live show, okay? Perhaps you could mention that to them.
I'll do that. I will absolutely do that. No bother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's your next sort of month looking like? What projects have you got coming up?
Me, I'm going to Napa next week to California.
Oh, you? How
brilliant. It's
going
to be a really tricky press trip, yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. And there'll be a plentiful opportunity of wine tasting, I take it.
Yeah,
well, that's why she's going.
Well,
I know.
That's what she does for a living.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, when I said plentiful, I mean you won't be just putting it in your mouth and spitting it out, will you?
Well, there'll be a lot of spitting of very good wine, unfortunately. That's the downside. But I'm sure I'll manage to actually have a glass or two of something very nice.
Just talking about those trips, by the way, Helena, and you'll have done this as well. Last time I did a wine field, it was Stellenbosch, okay? And
a wine field?
Yeah, well, it's a wine region.
That's what they call it.
It's a wine region, isn't it? And I have to say that it was one of the most delightful experiences of my life. Not only was the wine magnificent, not only were the wineries there very well run, but the sheer landscape is so beautiful to see. To see wine fields or
vineyards,
which go across valleys which are miles and miles long, was just sensational.
Yeah, the garden route, it's famous for being beautiful and fantastic for wine journeys. Yeah, really good.
Definitely.
What was your favourite Stellenbosch wine then?
The Stellenbosch Best.
There's no recollection of it at all. In fact, there's a fantastic. In fact, we should find it. There was a fantastic a recording of him. He went with Andy Townsend, who's now a commentator on ITV down there in South Africa. And I think Andy recorded you from the beginning of the wine tasting to the end. Yeah. And at the end, it's practically unintelligible.
Well, there was a little confusion as to exactly what we were talking about towards the end, but then you would if you're in Stellenbosch,
Well, indeed. Well, listen, Helena,
thank you. I need to give you a wine show.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely, it's got to be done. Well, listen, Helena, we'll be talking to you soon. Maybe talk to you when you get back from Napa.
In fact, if you could contact us so we can have a report from the Napa wine
Napa
fields,
region,
that'd be fantastic.
That would be good.
Please, yeah.
I will keep in touch, certainly. Good talking to you.
Okay, Helena, thank you very much indeed. Helena, who calls herself a wine expert and translator, which is interesting.
Well, definitely, but you also forgot to introduce Helena as the Two Mikes official wine expert.
Well, that is true, yes.
Of course she is.
She is indeed.
Absolutely.
And we're still yet to find her a little slot on the website. Yeah. We must do that.
We're going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, Jane has sent a very nice picture in. She says, Porky after his 2 weekly bottles of Pinot. But it looks like a sort of a down and out the sort of person you might see in Gosport. Where, by the way, there's been another terrible crime lately. You know,
what's that? Somebody's stolen the aircraft carrier.
No, the crime capital of the UK. No, they're chasing after somebody who's been rather violent towards somebody else. I don't want to go into too many details.
Really?
But it's not pleasant.
So they're chasing somebody who's what?
Who's committed a crime.
Well, crimes happen all over the country every day.
But this is a particularly horrible crime. And it's about somebody stomping on somebody's head. And they're looking for the person who's responsible for it. It happens in Gosport.
That is absolutely horrible. But I mean, do you watch the news every night and watch stories of horrendous crimes that happen all over this country all the time?
Most of them happen in Gosport.
No, they don't. None of them happen in
Gosport.
Now,
how about this picture, right? This is from Lee. His wife is on a horse called Rolo, taking a little run on the beach. Isn't that nice? And he's listening to us.
Sorry, who's that?
It's Lee's wife.
Oh, I see.
And the horse is called Rolo.
And where's the beach?
I don't know whether he says where the beach is.
It looks very nice indeed, yeah.
It does, doesn't it?
So he must be doing all right for himself.
He says Pakefield Beach.
Pakefield, what's that?
P-A-K-E.
No, I don't know what that is. Beach. But I tell you what, he's doing all right in life. He can afford to buy his wife a horse.
Yeah.
So how many young ladies, married and bringing up families and all that would like their own horse?
Well, I mean, maybe she bought her own horse. Maybe she didn't buy it for her.
Yeah, well, whatever. We like people who are winners in life. We like achievers. So
tell us where Pakefield Beach is, please, Lee, because neither one of us knows.
No, that's right.
But Rolo looks a very fine beast.
Indeed.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mikes on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Talk Radio, we are the Two Mikes. The Porky quiz is coming up very shortly. It's on Belgium, of course, because the Belgian Grand Prix is taking place in...
Certainly is.
Belgium.
In Belgium.
Yeah.
In Belgium.
You know where in Belgium? I mean, maybe
Spa.
I shouldn't ask you.
Spa.
Okay.
That's the legendary track.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I mean, obviously I haven't seen the question, so I don't want to skew your advice. But of course, at the beginning of the show, you did confuse Belgium with Holland, which wasn't one of the greatest.
Maastricht's right on the border.
Well, it's still in Holland.
Yeah, a bit of it's in Belgium.
Bit of it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Now, how much of a Harry Potter fan are you?
I'm not really. I've seen some of the films, but as I don't like monsters, because I've told you this about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
I couldn't watch another Harry Potter film after I saw a huge snake appear in one of the films.
And the big spider. I mean, they're terribly well made.
Yeah, very well made. I did like the early ones, which I thought were more innocent. I saw the very first one where he hid under the stairs because he's bullying parents. Didn't want to let him out.
They used to make him live there, didn't
they? And I saw all the doves arrive and all that, and then I saw them get off to Hogwarts for the first time. I saw them flying around in the Flying Anglia car, and I saw a game of Quidditch on broomsticks.
Well, it's good that you saw a game of Quidditch because, believe it or not, there is such a thing as the Quidditch Championship Finals, which are going on currently as we speak, right?
Yeah.
We're going to talk now to Ben Pooley, who's from a team called the London Monarchs who play Quidditch. Ben, a very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon to you too.
Yeah. Now, tell us what the Quidditch Championships Finals are all about and where are they?
So they're happening in Hull tomorrow.
In Hull?
At at one of the rugby stadiums there. I think it's Craven Park.
Okay.
And it's 8 teams from across the country competing for the title, really.
But, I mean, I'm not trying to be ignorant here, but how can you play Quidditch if you don't have any flying broomsticks? Because that was the whole point of it, if you see what I mean. And I don't know how you can replicate it unless you've got special wizardry powers. I'm sorry to be, like a wet blanket.
Killjoy.
Yeah, Killjoy, but that's the way I look at things.
Yeah, a few years ago we realised that it's probably not possible for us to fly, so we come up with our own version where we do have the broomsticks, which in our version are kind of PVC pipes.
Right, okay.
Acts as like the handicap in the sport. So like in rugby, you can only pass backwards, and basketball, you can't travel. Ours is you have this unwieldy broom, essentially.
Yeah.
So it hinders people a bit.
Does this have the backing, Tom, of the Harry Potter creator?
J.K. Rowling?
Yeah.
She's never really commented on it either way. I think she just kind of lets it happen at the side and just doesn't acknowledge it.
It's quite surprising, actually, because she's pretty opinionated on everything else. You think that she might have a view.
Yeah. Sorry, Tom, you there?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry, Tom. Yeah, I mean, sorry, what? Oh, Ben. Sorry, Ben. I don't know why I was calling you Tom. I'm going mad. I don't know. No, what I was going to say is that she actually accuses the President of the United States of doing something. Then she finds out that he didn't do it, and then she apologises to somebody else. You know what I mean? So I thought she'd been quite active on your case.
Well, yeah, she hasn't contacted us at all. So
okay, well,
it's quite a violent game in the movie, isn't it? Because not only are they flying around at each other, but they're also they're chucking this ball at a very, very high speed. I mean, what's the ball made of in your game?
So you've got the quaffle, which is just in our version is like a slightly deflated volleyball, so you can get a bit of a grip on it.
Yeah,
okay.
And then you've got the bludgers, which in our version is just regular dodgeballs.
Yeah, okay.
So there's quite a much bigger ball than the one they use, isn't it?
Yeah, a little bit bigger, yeah.
Mm. Okay, what sort of interest does this attract? Do you get crowds to this sort of thing, Ben? And I'm sorry I called you Tom, by the way, but I thought I was talking to a guy called Tom Fisk. But you're not Tom Fisk, you are Ben Pooley.
I'm not. Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. Well, tell Tom Fisk next time that he tries to fool me into thinking that it's him. Well,
that's because we were originally going to talk to Tom.
Exactly.
But now we're talking to Ben.
Yeah, well, I know.
It's not difficult.
Why did somebody tell me? Anyway,
somebody
Tom,
did tell you.
Sorry, Ben. You're getting confused now. Do you attract a big audience to these things? I mean, is it popular amongst your age group, and is it becoming a cultish thing to follow?
Yeah, so a lot of teams are university teams at the moment.
Right.
Because it's like it starts off as societies at universities, and then as people graduate, they start forming teams where they're from.
Good.
In terms of crowds, it depends where you're playing. We're playing in London.
Yeah.
If you're playing in one of the parks there on Clapham Common or something, then it attracts quite a crowd. But obviously, if you're playing in a smaller park, then less so.
Yeah.
But this one should be quite a crowd because it's in a stadium. So.
Okay.
And how many teams compete, and what length is the game itself?
So there's 8 teams at this championship, and it's obviously just one team at a time playing each other. Yep. The games are 20 minutes, and then the snitch is released, and then once the snitch is caught, the game ends.
Okay.
Wow. So, I mean, association football, which we now know to be, the worldwide game that it is, association football started like this. Can you see this growing? Can you see it catching on?
Definitely, yeah. So it started in the UK about 5-6 years ago with 1 or 2 teams, and now there's 40-plus teams across the country. America, there's 22 national teams.
Really?
Who competed at the World Cup last year. So
that's not bad, That's not bad in terms of growth over such a short period of time. Not bad at all.
Yeah. And I presume, obviously, it's an amateur game, I guess. You can't be a professional Quidditch player. But what do you win if you do become, the champion team?
So the prize this weekend is it's quite a rather large trophy and some medals and just pride, really, as well.
Yeah, well, pride's a very important thing, and you guys as well. Are you devotees of the Harry Potter books? I mean, if I said to you what happened in Harry Potter and the Green Monster or something like that,
Harry Potter and the Green Monster, I don't know that one.
Well, whichever one it is.
What about the Prisoner of Azkaban?
Yeah, are you guys devotees of the books themselves?
It's quite a mixture, really. I was a fairly big fan before I started playing, but I have players on my team who have never seen the films or read the books at all and are completely ignorant of it. So it's a nice mixture, really.
Mm-hmm.
And is it quite an athletic game? Because I mean, obviously, I can't quite imagine the game itself going on without the people flying around, because that's what I've got in my head. So is it sort of quite an energetic game, I suppose, is the question?
Yeah, it's very, very fast paced because it's got rolling subs kind of thing. It means people are kind of giving 110% at all times, and it's full contact, so there's full on tackling going on, and but it's good because at the highest levels it's very athletic, but it's accessible to everyone, no matter how athletic you are, really.
Okay, that's great. Now, Ben, in every game that is played, by lots of people, and think about golf, think about snooker, think about football, the rules are very precise and very strict. Now, you will have picked up the whole idea of the game, obviously, from the Harry Potter books, but who has drawn up a code of rules or laws under which Quidditch is played?
So, game started about 10, 11 years ago in America, they came up with a very basic set of rules. And then every year they kind of ironed out the kinks and the problems that occurred.
Sure.
So now we're on, I think, the 11th edition of the rule book, which is quite a thick edition of the book. So it's quite complicated.
Yeah. I see, because you understand what I'm saying. If you touch your ball in golf, you get a penalty stroke. Same thing in snooker, in football, the offside rule and all that kind of stuff.
Is there a referee?
Yeah, that's a good question.
There's a head referee and then 4 assistant referees to watch the bludgers.
Yeah, okay.
And then you've got a snitch referee dedicated to the snitch. So it's about 5 or 6 referees per game, so it's quite intense.
And what sort of playing surface does it most suit? A football pitch, a tennis pitch, a tennis court?
I think rugby ground they're playing, aren't they?
Yeah, is it?
It's just kind of regular grass. Like a football pitch kind of length is almost perfect, really.
Right, okay. And pardon my ignorance about Quidditch, but how do you score?
So the quaffle, which is the slightly deflated volleyball one, is you have to put it through the opponent's hoops, and it's worth 10 points.
Okay, and where's the opponent's hoop? Is
it's at either end.
It is either end, is it?
Yeah,
I
it's
see.
at their end of the pitch.
I see.
You've never seen the game?
No. Well, I've seen it flown on broomsticks, but I mean, that's very different to doing it on the ground.
Well, I wish you best of luck, Ben. Are you the favourites to win it, or who would you reckon is your biggest adversary?
We're definitely one of the favourites. We came second in the South Division behind the South East team.
Right.
And West Midlands are probably the other one to beat. So we'll definitely be amongst the medals. It's a case of where, really. But we're gunning for gold.
Okay.
So.
Very good. Very good
stuff.
Well done.
Good luck with it, Ben, and thank you for talking to us. Ben Pooley, the manager of the London Monarchs Quidditch team.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe quite a good fun thing to go and watch one day.
I could never play a game based on the imagination of a fictional author. I just couldn't.
Really?
No.
Okay. Now, you might remember Lee sent us a thing from Pakefield Beach, right? It's up near Lowestoft.
Oh, right, okay.
So you should know that neck of the woods.
I've probably been on it.
Not far from Yarmouth. Maybe the horse is not actually hers. Maybe she's just riding a horse.
Maybe.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
Of course, it's the Belgian national anthem.
Yeah, you get no points for that, by the way.
That was the first question. I got a point already.
No, that is the Porky quiz.
You asked me a question.
Music. Yes.
Right, we have started the Porky quiz. You've asked me a question and I've answered it right. 1 out of 10.
No, we have not started the Porky quiz yet because I haven't even got the questions. Because the questions are now being brought into the studio under sealed envelope.
It's not very efficient.
By Marta, the
producer. The quiz has started.
Here it is. No, the quiz has not started.
Come on, Marta, get your act together.
Until Marta has handed over the questions. And the questions are now in my hand.
There was only one set of questions there, Marta, okay?
Now,
not the spare set, the hard set.
I'm able to open up the secret envelope.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. I didn't see you open that.
What do you mean you didn't see me open it?
I was distracted. Marta distracted me on the way out.
Well,
Sleight of hand?
Sleight of hand. I've just opened it.
Let me see the envelope.
Well, it's on camera.
I want to see the envelope.
There you go. Have a look at the envelope. There's nothing else in there. It's a reckless destruction of property.
Right, get on with it.
Now, here is the quiz, right? There are 10 questions.
Right.
You can't read them backwards and upside down, hopefully, but just in case you can.
Yes.
I'm going to be putting... I should put up my iPad, actually.
Yeah, okay.
So that you can't see
I might be able
it.
to see them in the reflection of your glasses. You know that, don't you?
That is possible, yeah. However, I'm ready with question number 1.
Okay, so
Are you ready for question number 1?
Yes.
There will be only one particular answer that you can get, right?
Okay.
Who is the Prime Minister of Belgium? Question 1.
Prime Minister of Belgium?
Yes.
The Prime Minister of Belgium is...
If you don't know it, you don't know it.
No. Hang on, just racking my brain here,
You look as if you're looking down at something.
No, I'm not looking down at anything. I've nothing to look down at.
Okay.
The Prime Minister of Belgium is Pierre-Jean Massaromo.
Incorrect.
Oh, no? Okay.
His name is Charles-Yves Jean Ghislaine Michel.
Oh, him.
Actually,
yeah.
Number 2. Where else in the world is Belgian spoken?
Belgian is spoken in the Congo.
Incorrect.
No, it's not. The Belgian Congo was a famous empire-building plan of the Belgians.
That may well be true, but there is no such thing as Belgian, because, in fact, the national language of Belgium is Dutch.
Well, that's a trick question.
Well, it's a question.
There are 3 languages in Belgium, and I'm not going to tell you what they are in case that's another question.
None of them are called Belgian.
Well, that's a trick question when you said where else is Belgian spoken.
Why is it a trick question?
Because one of the 3 languages is called Belgian.
No, it's not.
Latin, German is known as Belgian.
Rubbish. Absolute rubbish.
Trick question. Sorry, it does not apply.
Question number 3. What is the name of the Belgian actor currently starring in TV commercials for a US beer? You must know this one.
I do.
You must know it.
Yeah.
But you have to get his name right.
Okay.
You get no points if you don't get his name right.
Okay. Thinking aloud now. Thinking aloud. Part of his name is Van.
Very good.
Right? His name is
It's not
Van.
Van Morrison.
No, it's not Van Morrison. You're trying to put me off.
No, I'm not.
That's a distraction to my thinking process.
Well, it's not my fault.
Part of his name is Jean.
Very good.
Jean.
Yeah, you've
Jean.
now got 2 out of 4
Jean.
parts of his name.
There's 4 parts of his name.
4 parts of his name.
Right, Jean Van. It's he's like a tough guy actor.
That's true.
Tough guy actor.
Yeah.
And I think the advert
Martial arts expert.
Martial arts expert, and I think the advert you're talking about, I think he's on a motorbike in a quarry.
People are now shouting his name at the radio.
No, hang on. Jean Van.
Come on, I have to hurry you.
Yeah, well, Jean Van. And he's been in lots of action films.
He has, yeah. He's like a karate expert.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, oosh, oosh, oosh,
Yeah,
and all
that's
that. Jean Van Matamont.
It's Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
You maniac. Right, number 4. You should get this one because this is why we're doing it.
Okay.
Who won last year's Belgian Grand Prix?
Last year's Belgian Grand Prix.
I mean, even if you guessed this, you've got a pretty good chance of getting it right.
Yes. Well, I'm thinking aloud now.
Okay.
I know it's either Lewis Hamilton or Sebastian Vettel, or it could be the current world champion who's not racing this year.
Yeah, could be.
German. Trying to remember his name now. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know it was.
Go on then.
It's the current world champion.
Well, you've got to give me his name.
Yes. Well, that's good enough, isn't it? The current world champion.
No.
Everybody knows who that is.
No, everybody doesn't
Right.
know who that
Okay.
is. You have to give me his name.
Okay. I'm going to tell you now. It was. It's not the current world champion. It's Lewis Hamilton.
Incorrect.
No.
It's Nico Rosberg.
Well, I told you that. I said it's the current world champion.
but
and you put me off.
You put me off. His name. All right. Question number 5. So far, you got none out of 4. Question number 5. What is the population of Brussels?
Brussels.
I'll take it to the nearest 100,000.
Okay. The population of Brussels is... Because the population of Brussels has been swollen by the fact that the EU hierarchy is based there. It is 1.1 million.
Incorrect.
No!
It is 2.1 million.
Yeah, we say I knew it was 0.1, so
yeah.
I should get
no, you don't
get half a point for the
Number
0.1.
6. Who directed the critically acclaimed movie Bruges? Which is, of course, in Belgium.
Bruges. Critically acclaimed, is it?
Yeah, very, very much so. Great film.
Okay, I know who that was.
Everybody raves about it.
Everybody raves about it.
Yeah.
It was Steven Spielberg.
Incorrect. It was Martin McDonagh. Question number 7. Which Belgian footballer has scored the most goals for his country?
Belgian footballer, most goals for his country.
You must have researched this one.
Yes. Belgian footballer. Okay.
A lot of Belgian footballers
most goals for his country.
Yeah.
I think the answer is Lukaku.
I knew you'd say that. He's actually scored 20 goals for his country, but the winner is a guy called Bernard Verhoef, who scored 31 goals for his country, who played for Belgium between 1928 and 1940.
Nobody's ever heard of Bernard Verhoef.
Verhoef. I'm surprised he didn't play for Everton. Question number 8. Yeah. What is the Belgian Congo now better known as? What's it now called?
The former Belgian Congo.
Well, the Belgian Congo now has a different name.
It does.
Yeah.
In fact, I think it's got more than one name because I think it's split into more than one country.
Well, you may say that,
yes.
but I'm looking for one name.
Okay. It is the Gold Coast.
Incorrect.
No!
It's the Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Yeah, but it's known as the Gold Coast.
No, it's not.
It is.
That's in Queensland, Australia. Rubbish.
It's not.
Right, you save yourself here and try and get 2 out of 10. Number 9.
Yeah.
Can you name the year when Hercule Poirot sold his first murder? I.e., when the first book, including Hercule Poirot.
Well, this is another trick question.
Why?
There wasn't a year because he's a fictional character, so he didn't solve any murders.
No, he solved every sort of murder, but you have to know when the first book was published. The Agatha Christie book. There is a year. There is an answer.
Well, that should have been the question then. What year was the first Hercule Poirot? No, you didn't.
Can you name the
year? You said sold his first murder. It's an incorrect question.
No, I said, can you name
However,
the year?
I know the answer.
Well, can you name the year when Hercule Poirot solved his first murder?
Yes,
i.e., the first book.
Yes.
What was it?
1937.
Incorrect.
No.
It was The Mysterious Affair at Styles in 1917, believe it or not. Now, final question.
Only 20 years out.
Surely, if you've done any research at all,
I have.
You'll get this one.
Yeah.
What are the colours of the Belgian flag?
Belgian flag?
And I'd prefer them in the right order, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
The Belgian flag. Don't tell me you don't even know that.
Belgian flag is...
This is a shambles.
Hang on.
This is worse than last week with Victoria Bourne.
No. The Belgian flag is blue. Blue, one's colour. One's colour blue.
Okay. How many?
Red.
Blue, red.
And green.
Red and green. That'd be hideous, wouldn't it? It is black, yellow, and red, which is like the German flag, except the other way around. You know how the Germans go horizontally.
Well, look, they were rubbish questions.
Well,
Why do you ask me about King Leopold? I know about King Leopold.
What do you know about him?
Well, I know that he was the last king of Belgium.
Was he?
Yeah. I also know that there are three...
when did he stop being the king of Belgium?
1917.
Really?
I also know...
I'm sure that's not the same year as Hercule
Poirot
solved the first murder.
No. I also know there are three official languages in Belgium.
Yeah, which are?
French,
no,
Dutch, and German.
No, Flemish is a language.
No, it's not. It's not. Flemish is not a language.
No.
It's that is just a dialect.
So when I said Belgium, but where else do they speak Belgian? Why did you say nowhere?
Yeah, hey.
Why didn't you say nowhere?
Because it was a trick question.
No,
I thought there must have been
the answer is nowhere.
A derivative of the language. Okay. Why didn't you ask me who was the most famous ever Belgian cycler? Eddie Merckx.
What?
Right.
Cyclist. Eddie Merckx.
Yeah. Yeah. Why didn't you ask me who is the current national team manager of Belgium?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why didn't I ask you that?
Yeah.
I don't write
because, of course, it used to be Everton's manager or Roberto Martinez.
Yeah.
Why didn't you ask me any decent questions?
Well, I don't write
These rubbish questions.
These are all good questions. There
no,
you go.
They're not. They're rubbish.
0 out of 10.
Yeah, okay. Do you think of that?
Yeah, absolute rubbish.
Yeah.
Violence is the idiot's response to a problem.
No, I don't know why I bother with these quizzes.
You must be an idiot. That was the Porky quiz.
The 21st century dream team of dialogue, debate and discourse. The Two Mics on Talk Radio. We'll get you talking.
OK, folks, you are listening to The Two Mics. We're on Talk Radio. Coming up from 1 o'clock, the small man is back, but he's got a big show. John Holmes will be talking driverless lorries and the big boxing matches, and he will, of course, be playing all your speech requests.
That's right. John Holmes is here on Talk Radio from 1, although we were told earlier by the Road Haulage Association that they're not actually technically driverless lorries.
No, that's right.
There is a driver in there.
There is a driver in there, but didn't she say that they're talking about convoys or something?
Oh, well, yeah, they're convoys, but the point is that the driverless lorries would be lorries without any drivers in them, which is not the case.
No, it's not.
Luke says this after your pathetic performance. Jean-Claude Van Planco.
Well,
Hashtag
that's
0
nice,
out of 10.
Yeah. Well, the questions were pathetic again, and I think that if I keep treating the questions with the contempt they deserve, then you might get the wrath of the audience, our millions of listeners, down on your head instead of me getting the wrath of the audience down on my head, because you can't have a quiz unless you've got proper questions.
Well, hang on.
None of those questions were proper.
Well, they were. Mark, though, however, says he says pyre gerrymandering. I presume that means something you've written which has been corrected wrongly. Here he says cause is Canadian and it was the Belgian Congo. No, it wasn't the Belgian Congo.
It
was.
Was.
That wrong.
It was.
No, it wasn't.
It was.
The Belgian Congo, you don't speak Belgian in Belgian Congo.
Well, I'm afraid you do, because there was a dialect there.
Incorrect.
Yeah.
Pete says dreadful performance in the Porky quiz. Situation normal, 0 out of 10.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not a normal situation, as you know. It's only when the questions are so unanswerable that it has to resort to that.
Okay.
And frankly, you are shortchanging the audience because they don't get a proper quiz.
That's not true. I have nothing to do. All I do is I get the subject which you agreed to do a quiz on, Belgium, and then we get the independent quizmasters to come up with a load of questions. Now, here's a question for you. What's the most pathetic thing that you could have a rail company say to you on Bank Holiday weekend?
Don't get on our trains?
That's exactly what's going on.
No.
Have you ever heard of anything like this? People are being urged not to travel by train in some parts of Britain over Bank Holiday weekend because of major engineering works, right? Now, apparently, Virgin Trains have asked customers to avoid travelling on the West Coast route on Saturday and Sunday because it's going to be very busy.
What's happened to football fans who want to go to the northwest or come from the north to London?
High demand is also expected for East Coast trains between London, King's Cross and Scotland due to passengers seeking alternative routes. Guess why? Because Euston Station is going to be closed on Saturday and Sunday.
Completely
closed.
That is one of the main travelling hubs in this country.
Yeah, and guess
what's coming
to an end this weekend?
What?
The Edinburgh Festival. So people from Edinburgh who have been up there because they've been there for the whole month, many of whom live in London, will be trying to get back to London, but they won't be able to get down to Euston Station. I know that normally they would come via King's Cross, but it's a shambles, isn't it?
Complete shambles, isn't
Absolutely
it? The busiest weekend, one of the busiest weekends of the year.
It is.
The last bank holiday of the year.
It is, because, I mean, schools don't go back for about another sort of week and a half, 2 weeks, but still, this is a weekend where everybody travels.
About this? What is the thinking?
Well, I mean, don't forget, Waterloo is still got another 2 weeks of disruption.
And that's been extended now, apparently.
Yeah, and that's been extended. Yeah. I mean, it just seems ridiculous. A Network Rail spokeswoman said this: "We apologise to our passengers for the added disruption to their journeys, and we thank them for their patience."
Oh, that's very kind.
I mean, really?
That's very kind,
This is all about delivering a bigger, better Waterloo station fit for the 21st century. Well, we've been in the 21st century for, 17 years?
Quite a long time.
I don't think it should have been fit for the 21st century when we were still in the 20th century.
I do.
You know?
That's outrageous.
There's no southeastern services to or from London Bridge, Waterloo East or Charing Cross.
Absolutely outrageous,
The trains to Hastings are having to go from Cannon Street, right?
Unbelievable.
And that's all next week as well. Due to Crossrail works, there are no trains between Liverpool Street and Shenfield, Ingatestone, Billericay and Barking on Sunday and Monday.
Yeah.
There are no services between Cardiff and Newport. I mean, it just goes on and on and on.
Well, it does, and I think you're going on and on and on, and you're depressing me, and you're depressing our
Well, I'm giving people valuable information.
Yeah, but a lot of people who live in the north of England don't even know where these locations are. So you've made your point.
Well, no, I haven't.
Made your point.
What are you worried about the north of England for? I just told you about Cardiff.
Yeah, OK. Well, that's in Wales.
Yeah, I know it is. Don't you care about Wales?
Thank you. Yeah, of course I do. But thank you for drawing that to all our attention. We will now take more vigilance.
So you've got something more important to tell people about than the fact that they won't be able to go anywhere. Is that what you're telling me?
I think I have.
Like what?
Well, what do you think Isaac Newton invented? What's he famous for?
Isaac Newton's famous for the apple falling in his head, isn't he?
Yeah, which
meant that he didn't invent gravity, but he discovered it.
Discovered gravity.
So something that often people who are not very bright make the mistake of saying.
That's right.
Yeah.
But guess what else he invented?
What else did he invent?
Rather than discover?
Yeah.
He invented the cat flap.
What?
Isaac Newton. Dr. Isaac Newton.
Rubbish.
He did.
How did he invent a cat flap?
Sir Isaac Newton invented the cat flap. He did.
Where'd you read that?
Because I know about it. I read it in one of my journals.
One of your journals? What, Cat Weekly?
No, not Cat Weekly, no. Now, in addition to...
Cat Scratch Fever.
In addition to discovering gravity...
Yes.
He was also the inventor of the reflecting telescope. Did you know that?
What's a reflecting telescope?
Well, the telescope which meant we could look at the stars and the moon.
Well, what's a reflecting telescope, though?
Well, it reflects light back into the telescope and enlarges the image.
No, do you?
Yes, I do.
No, you don't.
He also invented calculus.
Calculus?
Yes.
Now, that's an important invention.
Well, that's the trigonometry of maths.
Well, yeah, it's the working out of various equations.
That's right, yeah.
But how does a cat flap come into all of that?
Well, because while he was doing all this and he was sitting at his desk inventing all these things, honestly, the telescope and calculus and all that.
Did he have a cat?
Yeah, he was irritated by his pet cat.
Was he?
And do you know what his cat was called?
I don't know.
Spithead. yeah, I don't know why. Not Spitfire.
Spithead?
Yeah, his cat was called Spithead.
Are you sure about this?
Yeah, I'm sure. And what happened was he had to put the kittens in a different room and they started scratching at the door because they wanted to be admitted to his workroom.
I see, yes.
You see what I mean?
Right.
So he had his big cat, Spithead, in the room, and he used to stroke the cat, a bit like the villain in James Bond. Okay. While he was
I don't really see Isaac Newton as a villain in James Bond.
No, but you know what I mean. Like it used to comfort him while he was working out to invent.
Is it a white cat?
Yeah, I don't know. But while he was trying to work out calculus anyway. So what happens is. He decided that it was cruel to keep the kittens outside.
Oh, yeah.
So what he did was he sawed a hole in the door. But
why didn't you not just open the door?
Because then he'd have to get up from his desk, wouldn't he, and get up and open and close the door.
Right.
So he sawed 2 holes in the door.
Yeah.
One was a big hole for his cat Spithead to go in and out.
Okay.
But the little cats couldn't get through that hole because they couldn't jump up because it was in the middle of the door.
Uh-huh.
So he made another hole in the door.
Right.
For the kittens.
So what he invented, in fact, was a hole in the door as opposed to a cat flap.
No, because he put the flap on as well.
Did he?
So that the kittens wouldn't automatically run through back and forward. You see what I mean?
So they can only come in one way.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
But surely a proper cat flap, you can go both ways, can't you?
Not in this one. So
there's a one-way cat flap he invented.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So how do they get out?
What? Well,
how do they get out?
Well, he then opened the door and put them out when he got irritated.
Right. He didn't want to open the door.
Yeah, well, he did. Now, what I'm going to say is this.
Yeah, go on.
This was
You stopped me giving out this valuable information about travel around the country.
People know about all that. Now, this was revealed in an 1827 biography by John Martin Frederick Wright.
So it's not exactly breaking news then, is it?
Well...
1826, we've known this since.
Now, the point is that since it was revealed that Sir Isaac Newton invented the cat flap, several legendary literary scholars say it wasn't Sir Geoffrey Newton. Guess who it was?
Not Sir Geoffrey Newton.
No.
Who's he?
Sir Isaac Newton. Guess who it was? Guess who it was?
I don't know.
Geoffrey Chaucer.
Geoffrey Chaucer?
Yeah.
Right.
Invented the cat flap.
Did he? What? Before he was writing the Canterbury Tales?
While he was writing the Canterbury Tales.
Oh, okay.
And if you had any intelligence at all and weren't so ignorant, you will have read The Miller's Tale.
I have read The Miller's Tale.
From the Canterbury Tale.
Yeah.
And in that...
I don't remember there being a cat in The Miller's Tale.
There is.
Really?
There is.
Really?
In that, there are these words. And
Go
if
on.
you say you've read it, your memory's gone.
Yeah.
And hole he found, full low upon a boarding. There as the cat was wanting for to creepy. And at the hole he looked in full deepy. And at last he had of him a sighty of room beyond the doory.
The doory?
Yeah. So it says...
What about the cat flappy?
That was the cat flap.
Right.
It seems probably, say the scholars from my journals, that early pet owners probably added a felt or canvas flap to prevent drafts.
Right.
This then became the...
I don't care, actually.
The cat flap.
I don't care.
Well, I think that's so fascinating, that.
Really?
Sir Isaac Newton, inventor of gravity, or discoverer of gravity, inventor of the telescope, and calculus, which has solved, calculus
What
was...
about Leonardo da Vinci? Didn't he invent calculus?
No.
Sure?
You've got to remember that Einstein used calculus to come up with the theory of relativity.
Yes.
So we couldn't have done that without Sir Isaac Newton.
Maybe so.
But in the midst of all that, the man invented the cat flap, which is probably one of the most useful domestic inventions ever.
Really?
Wouldn't you say?
No, I don't think so.
Well, if you didn't have a cat flap, you'd have to get up 3 or 4 times in the middle of the night, let your cat in and out.
I haven't got a cat.
Neither have I, but lots of people have.
Well, yeah, but so I don't need one. Now, how about this from Danny? He says, I always loved the famous flag of Belgium.
Oh, yeah.
Blue, red
right,
and green.
Blue, red and green,
Very
yeah.
nice.
Well,
You know.
They're a colourful nation, the Belgians. I've been there.
Here's one from Wrong Star.
Do you like waffles? Belgian waffles?
Belgian waffles. Do you like those?
No.
You don't?
No.
When Porky got his O-level results, did he write to the exam board asking why they didn't ask him the questions he knew the answers to?
Well, yeah, something like that, wasn't it? Now, Goats Rob, who describes himself as Goatman, has put a little picture together, and it shows us staggering around, intoxicated, and it says, sign up here to raise money for the Two Mikes 20 grand lash-up session on the Vino with Petrus.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, so
do you not think we could raise that money?
I think that was quite a good idea, actually.
I think GoFundMe.
And Jane, who's a regular correspondent, has come up with a brilliant idea. She says, it was unfair, the quiz, so why don't you do the quiz again tonight with the same questions, see if Porky can get 1 out of 10. That's a bit harsh,
That's
isn't
a good idea, actually, because we are back later on tonight at 10 o'clock. On Talk Sport, funnily enough.
Yeah, we certainly
so
are.
We're going to go home and make some, have some rest, have a bit of food.
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of glasses of the amber liquid, perhaps.
Certainly.
And then we're back here on Monday, Bank Holiday Monday.
We certainly are.
At 10 o'clock.
Following our appearance on Sky News that morning.
Sky News, yeah.
Hey.
John Holmes has just come in and started wrecking the place. What's going on?
Well, you see,
why are you wrecking the place?
It broke
it's a bit harsh.
So that'll never get replaced. Anyway.
No.
Hello, gents.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you very much.
Good. I was just hearing you're in on Monday. That was where we got to there.
Yes. Yes, we are in on Monday. Excellent. Are you here on Monday?
No, it's bank holiday.
You don't work bank holidays?
Well, I do some, but not this one.
Oh, why not?
I can't be asked.
Oh, right. Have you heard about the travel problems? You wouldn't be going anywhere, would you?
Well, I have, and that means I might not get here.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd just do the best of it.
Where do you have to come from,
then? Kent.
Kent?
Deepest Kent.
Yeah, well, that'll be difficult.
Yeah, because
London
Kent
Bridge is shut.
London Bridge, Waterloo East isn't doing it. Charing Cross, can't bother.
No. So what have you got coming up today, then?
Coming up today, we have driverless lorries. I don't know whether
we were told by somebody that we mustn't call them that because they're not, in fact, driverless.
Yeah, this is the weird thing.
Right?
So it's drivers doing... What are they doing in there? Just eating Yorkies and murdering prostitutes? What are they doing?
Watching films.
Yeah, they are.
On their iPads.
Yeah. Which is a cushy number, isn't it?
It's not bad. It's easy enough.
So we're going to be doing a bit on that, really.
Okay.
Other stuff.
All right.
Yeah, good man.
Well, John Holmes is here. When he's finished wrecking the studio, he'll be on the show from about 1 o'clock after the news. We are the Two Mikes, and we'll see you later.
I'm too sexy for my shirt.
Yeah. Talk Radio.